Okay, according to this, we are live now. So, as usual, guys, hello. You can see, in spite of Double D being next to me here in the video, I do not have a fancy Diversity and Dragons style introduction video of clips or whatever. So we're going to wait for a while to let people come in, to get people arriving. Although it looks like we've got a good crowd already here. That's not bad. We're already at like 15 people that were just waiting for us. So that's nice. And I suppose after 10, 15 minutes, we'll start with the proper introductions, though. I suspect that most of you, I think that out of any two OSR YouTube channels, the crossover between my fandom and Double D's is almost identical, I would guess. I mean, he's got a few people that watch him that for whatever reason don't like me, either because they've had a personal spat with me or because they're raving anti-Semites or for whatever reason, or because they're just pro-SR people. But that'll tolerate to watch him, but won't watch me. But,
what do you got against the pro-SR? Come on.
Sorry.
They've been good lately. Have they not?
Well, actually, lately they've kind of fallen to pieces, right? Jeffro Johnson quit on them, and now they have no real.
I think we were a little too hard on Jeffro. I know you're very sensitive about the whole Jewish thing. In the end, I think it was only a couple of memes, and honestly, the bar has been lifted so high. I don't even know if that counts. I like the guy. When I talked to him, I kind of liked Jeffro. I thought he was a pretty nice guy.
My earliest claim to fame as way back in the blog, the first blog that really made me well known was a blog entry called The Lawn Crapper Theory, right? And that's what the problem is there, is that if somebody moves into your neighborhood and decides that he's just gonna shit in his own front lawn, right? Not even other people's front lawns, right? But his own, just openly defecate in the front lawn, and nobody does anything to stop him, then sooner or later someone else is going to realize, holy shit, that guy's shitting in his own front lawn. I could get a house here and do the same thing, right? And pretty soon you've got all these people coming in, who don't want to be there because of the neighborhood. Maybe the original lawn crapper was a nice guy, right? He was not bad, apart from being, from that one particular mental quirk where he shat on the lawn, right? He moved here because his kids were going to go to the local, school, and the schools were better and whatever. These other guys are going to show up. They're going to show up because that's the neighborhood where you're allowed to shit on your front lawn and no one will stop you and no one can say anything about it, right? And it's the same for fucking Nazis, right? It's the same for anybody who plays around with racial politics, right? As soon as you get a guy, and he's probably not that bad. He's got, he's smart. He's got other good ideas, but then he can't stop himself from saying things about the Jews, right, or whatever. Then other
like
people
I
are going to
said,
say,
that
RPG hobby.
He only said like two things, and then he was like, I don't ever remember him saying anything. I think he was just making a joke. Look, if it's a well-crafted joke about Jews, I will laugh. I'm a supporter.
There's a lot of great jokes you can do, Jewish jokes, right? And that are meant to be amusing and possibly a little bit pushing, but not. But they're not meant to be to summon up the dredges of old blood libels or conspiracy theorists, right? And that is what he was doing there. But I actually don't think Jeffro is like that, right? I think that he's just a grifter. He is a grifter, and he realized the other thing, that if you call out, if you do these dog whistles at the far right, at specifically the anti-Semitic far right, then they will come and support you. And you'll only get those 50 guys because everyone else will be disgusted at you, right? But those 50 guys,
that was just like I said, even back when I was like kind of sparring with them, even then I was like, that's not enough for me. I agree to disagree, but I think he was just he was like edgy to purposefully to be edgy, and I think he would agree with that. He's just trying to carve out his space, and he did for a while.
But it was also, I mean, come on, he's also calling things out, right?
Yeah.
If you can, there are lots of ways to be edgy, right? So the way you're edgy sometimes, I'm edgy sometimes, and the way we're edgy reflects something that we either sincerely believe and or want to call attention to, right?
Yeah, but people could say I'm racist based on, some of my tweets and all that stuff. I don't give a fuck, as I'm sure you know. But I mean, like, going by a lot of that same standard, they'd be like, oh, he hates black people. I don't hate black people. I just I hold them to the same standard.
There's a difference between an accusation of racism, right? Which is like, oh, you're I don't know what you're complaining about DEI in colleges. You're a racist, right? No, that's not that, right? And somebody who posts a meme showing like a classical Jewy type Jew with a walkie-talkie saying put the black month put the gay month in the black month in the whatever, like as if Jews run the world, right? Like there's a whole other level of malice there, and it's a very it's very clear.
All right, let's stop this. They don't want to hear this talk. Let's talk about RPGs and Daggerheart and stuff like that.
And we're already at like number 37, so here we go. I guess we can get started at around now, whatever, 9:06. All right, so hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in internet shitlords, and today it's the RPG Pundit encounter. This is episode number 11, and today we have with us the guy who is probably the second best OSR YouTuber in the entire platform. I always try, I'm often very busy because I'm, besides doing my own videos and writing games and all of that, I don't have a ton of time to be watching a whole bunch of YouTube videos, right? But
same here.
There are a few. I always try to watch as many of OSR channels as I can, especially if I spot something new and I want to see what they're about. But there are very few that I will watch with consistency, right? Like usually I'll subscribe to one if it looks kind of interesting, and then if it pops up on my feed, I'll watch it again, right? But in the case of Diversity and Dragons, that's one that I'm watching with consistency. Now, I have a problem that on Wednesday nights, which is this big live stream night, I have a standing appointment for dinner with Bill the Elf, who is, aside from being the longest surviving gamer of my Last Sun campaign, he's also an incredible chef, like Michelin star level chef, right? So I go to his house, he cooks for me. We watch television. So I don't get a chance to watch every single live stream live, but I do usually end up watching after.
You show up occasionally.
I do, and that's whenever we cancel for one reason or another. So that's basically.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. And I do catch your stuff. Usually, what I do is I'll have to binge because, like you, I'm busy. I also have a 9-to-5, just a regular career job. So this is just still kind of a hobby. But I do remember. I am very loyal to people that were with me at the beginning. That's why I thank you. DM James, all these channels that, when I first started, you guys kind of shouted me out and said, hey, this guy's got something to say. So thank you.
And now you're almost at the same amount of subscribers I am, because I remember when you started out, and that wasn't that long ago. You made quite the meteoric rise.
Coming up on 3 years exactly this week. Yeah, it was 3 years exactly. End of, I think, July 31st, maybe. So we're going to do a little celebration on Wednesday, I think, just something small, but it's been quite a ride.
So before we go on into the actual interview segment, I want to point out to the audience that as usual, I do not monetize the actual live stream when it is live, because I don't want people having to get interrupted by ads and stuff. So if you want to support me, if you want to support this live stream show and contribute to the Domino cat toy fund, I would show her, but she's right here. She's sitting on my lap, but she's asleep, so I'm going to let her sleep. I'm not going to disturb her slumber.
Does that work? By the way, does that work? Not monetizing it for ad revenue, and then like there's no ads?
Yeah, there's no ads. If you don't have it monetized, it won't have ads. I'm pretty sure.
Holy shit! I've been missing the boat because my stuff always gets not struck but claimed, because I use copyrighted stuff all the time. I don't care.
Oh yeah,
like you, if people
mine wouldn't.
But
ironically, mine would not be claimed because it's just me on a camera, right? But
okay. I'm gonna set it up next time.
I get disturbed by the possibility that other people might be like in the middle of watching the live stream getting these ads and then they say screw this and leave, right? So I would rather for the live stream at least, because everything else you can skip over, it doesn't matter. But when
I always figured they would do it regardless. It's YouTube. I always just figured they'd do it regardless. Like, you don't want to take the ad revenue? That's fine. We'll take it.
Yeah, you guys tell me, are you getting ads that are causing you to be interrupted here? Have I been wrong the whole time? I guess it's possible.
Yeah,
but anyways, if you do a super chat, I will obviously read what you have to say, unless of course it'll get me banned from YouTube or something. But you don't need to do a super chat for me to read what you have to say. I will, we're very interactive in this channel, and we try to keep track of the chat, although today we have a busier chat than usual, so hopefully I'll be able to keep up and be able to keep up with any super chats as well. But there we go. So we're gonna start now. My gosh, everybody's here. Look at this.
First of all, before we start, let's everybody raise a glass. Happy birthday, Gary.
Oh yes, that's right.
738.
There we go.
When he died, I'm like, oh, he was old. And now I'm starting to get old, and now I'm like 70 is not old. Not these days now. I'm like, damn, that was way too young.
But, well, you hear people saying, well, who was it? So Ozzy died, he was 71, right? And somebody else just died recently, was 76. I forget who it was, but in both cases, I heard people saying, oh, it's such a tragedy, right? Like it's not a tragedy. I mean, okay, I'll grant you 71 is not super old. It's still, it's a bit below the average life expectancy for a man in the United States, right? But not that much lower, right? And again, that's why it's the average. But, to think that it's like a tragedy to die in your 70s, it's a tragedy if a 12-year-old dies, right? A 12-year-old dies, total tragedy, right?
It's more like a shame. It's like a shame. Yeah, if they die,
if
before
dies, it's pretty bad too, right? Like, because you think of how much more he could have possibly done, right? But a 70-something, yeah, anything above 60. In the ancient world, if you reach the age of 60, which is also a cyclical return in astrology, right? That meant that you were now venerable, right? Everybody had to be nice to you. Everybody had to listen to you no matter how kooky you were and all that sort of thing. And for the rest of your life, everyone would take care of you and show you great respect, right? We have taken away the respect from old people. And at the same time, we've become so obsessed with mortality that we think that for an 80-year-old to die is a tragedy. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. We've got it so bad. Anyways, we're going to start I swear to God, we are going to start the actual interview, because this is not just this isn't a show where we just sit around and shoot the shit. I actually have a series of questions that I will ask our guests. Okay, tabletop gaming with Wolf Phototech says, I don't see any ads during RPG Pundit live streams. No ads, says Brian Stevens. Yeah, okay. I thought that was how it worked. Now, I'm glad that we double checked.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I will start to
take that off. And then after you're done the live stream, you can go back, I'm sure in the studio, and then you click the monetization on, because once it's like the recap, it doesn't really matter, right? But if it's in the original live stream, I'd rather not show it. And you can still do super chats, right? Like you get all the super chats. You just don't get the ad, the mid ads or whatever the hell they're called.
Good deal.
All right.
Good deal.
So we are going to start our process today. We have today Diversity and Dragons. And as usual, you may or may not remember, Double D, that in this show, the first question and also the last are always the same question to every guest. And so the first question is this. You've been for 3 years now, you just said, a pretty significant OSR YouTuber. You started basically as an unknown, and you made your way up into becoming like probably having, I think your live stream show in particular is probably the most popular OSR live stream show around. And you've interviewed a lot of people, you had a lot of people as guests there. You've also been in a lot of other places. So the question is, this is the moment for you to shout out who has been good to you and who has been bad to you. Who are you going to say? Which people are you going to say have helped you out along the way, and which people are you going to take the advantage of being on the Pundit show to call out as pieces of shit? Go on.
Well, I hate to be boring. I really don't. The only people that I would call out as like pieces of shit are the people that I already like kind of take on, like people that kind of just attack me out of the blue when I don't say anything about them. So we're talking about like the Condor DMs. We're talking about, you know, like
Daggerheart.
Daggerheart. I'm telling you, he's talking about Daggerheart again. Like the Super Geek Mikes, these idiots. Now, look, if I do a video on like Ginny D, you know, and I just say, hey, I know you guys like her as a YouTuber. Here's what she thinks about white guys. Yeah. I realize there's going to be some blowback there. So I don't particularly hold like someone like Ginny D personally. Like, I don't think Ginny D's, she might be kind of a bit of a fraud and all that. I don't have any personal animus against Ginny D, you know, or anybody like that. Or, you know, there's even ones on the other side that I kind of secretly, I don't want to say like, but like Bob the World Builder. I don't know. He kind of amuses me. I know he's a lefty. I know he's you know, he's all this, but I kind of like watching his stuff. But like Soyclops, well, he's another one.
You know which one I like, if I may interrupt?
Go ahead.
The one I like, and it seems such a strange choice, is Dungeons and Discourse, right? Because she, I don't know if it is she, I don't know what her its pronouns are, right? Yeah. Has all, like, you look at the start of a video of that and you say, okay, like this person is going to be like the wokest person on the planet, right? And it never is, right? And they're always and they're always pretty funny, and they often make the correct point, you know. So it's like, what the hell am I watching here? But you know, like out of all the bigger names than me, that's the one that I always get surprised by. I always expect that it's going to, you know, go the other way, and it doesn't, you know.
Because they're not pushy and they don't do like all the, you know, like trans rights. I'll definitely call her she. That's fine. Dungeons.
Well, I mean, I don't know. She might be biologically female. I have no idea, right? But
I think they are a trans person, if I'm not mistaken. I think I had heard that. I think so,
but you know, like if you're talking about a chunkier girl, right? It's sometimes hard to tell, isn't it?
Yeah. I've been fooled. There was a like a 40K painter, I think their name is Dana Howell, and I was watching just for like some tips, and the first time or two I wasn't kind of like paying attention, and I'm like, oh, this girl paints, and then I'm like, that might have been a guy at one point. Sure enough it was, but I don't really care about that.
But yeah, agree, right? If there's one of these people and they're thin, it's always easier. Oh yeah, that's a dude, right? Or it used to be a dude, or whatever.
Yeah. The weight can kind of hide.
When you're putting like two women together, both of them are kind of overweight, right? There's a very good chance that one of the two of these is trans, and you might not be able to guess it, you know, because the chunkiness kind of helps.
It does disguise it. Yeah. Yes, and to get back to your question, it's
yes, please.
the only other one would, like I said, would be Soyclops. What's his name? I can't even remember the name of his channel. I'm sure somebody in the chat will. Oh, and Indestructo Boy. Yeah.
Oh,
another dude.
Okay, now I see it.
Now he went above and beyond. He went after me and Max Liao's channel for what, you know, because he was such a fedora tipping retard for Ginny D. He was the one that was like, I'm going to try to get these guys' channel. He was more going after Max, but that's why I hate Soyclops to this day. He really is a fucking retard. I do not like that guy. But honestly, everyone else, I don't really hate anybody. Hate. Like actual Jake, he kind of tests it every once in a while. The Bible Reloaded guy. But the more he does videos on me, the more I'm kind of honored, because like he does videos on like Ben Shapiro, quartering, all these like famous YouTubers, and then like sure enough, I'll be in the rotation. Like, look at this guy. Calls me divorced in dragons, which is I always have to tell my wife.
No, that's almost a compliment, isn't it? You know, when you get that sort of thing.
It's
like when someone says like, fuck Jordan Peterson and the RPG Pundit. I'm like, oh, okay, great. You know, I'm in good company. You know?
Yeah. As far as folks I like, look, I try to get along with everybody. That's why I don't like when I'm kind of like Ronald Reagan, you know, thou shalt not attack another Republican sort of. So I understand though that people are
getting harder and harder though now. Come on, let's be honest, right? Like the last few months, it's becoming very hard to just say, well, you know, oh, we should all just ignore our differences when our differences are sometimes a chasm, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. I just to me, arguing about that stuff kind of leads down a path. Like I saw kind of where that has led, like with Comicsgate, where it's just turned into just tribal warfare, just like.
Well, I don't see it that much in RPGs, in the RPG hobby, right? But I'm talking about in the bigger sense in general, especially on like YouTube conservatives, right? But
yeah, there's
in the hobby,
things are in flux right now, I would say.
Yeah, right now in the RPG hobby, I think the woke side is falling to pieces slowly but quicker over time, right? And that means that everybody else is getting a jump on things, you know, apart from apart from the current smut apocalypse over at itch.io. But
well, I always like, you know, I always just choose to focus my energy on those people, on the Wizards of the Coast, on the Paizo's, you know, on the Critical Roles, you know, Darrington Press. They provide more than enough. So if somebody, you know, doesn't like me or whatever, but you know, they stay quiet, that's fine. I mean, I don't know, like I said, but I truly do try to get along with everybody. You know, maybe that's Pollyanna or whatever, but I think it never hurts to at least try and just at least have
that's
a
good, but it must be tiring.
I've
never had that theory myself.
Well, I know, because you pick fights with everybody, but I don't. You'd be surprised when you don't do that. How sometimes.
Well, here's the test. I forget who said it. Somebody posted on my YouTube just when I announced that you were going to be the guest, right? And he said, "Oh, that's excellent because you're both guys," and I think this is a huge compliment to both of us, right? You're both guys that can have an argument with each other and won't end up becoming separate, becoming enemies or something like that, right? And there's few people that can do that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty good, and that's kind of always been my test, right? Like I'm the RPG Pundit, right? By the name, you should know that I am going to jab at people as part of the shtick, right? And the people that can take it are the ones that that almost always end up also being the best people in the OSR, and the ones that I know are going to be you know, after that part of the good crowd, you know.
Well, we were kind of raised in the same cauldron of the early aught message board. People like me, you, Shark, you know, I'm sure there's even some others in the chat, you know, who were on like the Nothing Lands.
You used to go to Nutkin Land, right? Well, Nutkin Land became the RPG site. It was literally renamed.
Yeah, Nutkin Land, Nothing Land. I was on the RPG site, you know, for a little while. Circus Maximus, you know, when it's tolerable to be on there before we shut it down.
That's a long time.
It wasn't very late. I basically just went there to kind of keep up with people. But yeah, I mean, like you did kind of learn how to argue with people like an adult, and like you could call each other every name in the book, but at the end of the day, I'd be like, whatever, you know, next thread, you'd be agreeing with them on something. And it did kind of teach you, you know, how to be a guy, which is not to be so fucking emotional about everything like a chick, and just like, okay, we disagree on this stuff, you know, big deal. You know, we got to move on. The problem is now, of course, as we know, you know, I think we're more apt to do that. You know, the left, you know, they kind of feel like it's an existential battle. Well, you know,
but, you know, they're gonna have to. I think they're gonna have to relearn all that, right? Because sooner or later, like they're good. I think they're gonna humiliate themselves in 28, like absolutely humiliate themselves in this like McGovern level sort of thing, right? And then after that, they're gonna get another Clinton or Obama type that's going to show up and it's going to tell them, "No, you guys have got to come back to sanity," right? They'll have that.
Yeah, it could follow the whole Reagan, the way Reagan played out. You know, Reagan was just so remarkably popular that George H.W. Bush won. You know, I mean, partially because Michael Dukakis was just an empty.
No.
suit.
Again, Mike Dukakis was another example. He was a disastrously bad candidate.
Yeah.
For about a 20-year period there, from LBJ until Clinton, the Democrats couldn't win a presidential election except once with Carter, and that was because of Watergate. And it was, so they were in the wilderness. And it was because they kept doubling down, right? Every candidate they picked ended up being more far left than the previous one, because they kept believing, oh, if we just haven't convinced people enough of our ideas. No, people know your ideas. They hate them, you know, and that's the exact same thing you're doing. History is always in spirals, you know.
And then the one that they did elect, Clinton, basically got elected by being in the middle and saying, like, we got government's too big, you know, we got I mean, he had, of course, a lot of liberal ideas too, but basically he was like palatable to like mainstream people. Like, okay, he's not gonna be another Jimmy Carter. And to be fair, he wasn't. I mean, he was at times an effective president, at times not. Let's put it this way. I mean, I'd take Bill Clinton over someone like Gavin Newsom or Barack Obama or Joe Biden.
Bill Clinton, if he was running today on the platform he had in 92, he'd have to be a Republican. You know, probably close to MAGA Republican at least. You know? So I'm just looking over at our comments here. Some people are commenting on some of the people that we were just talking about.
Indestructible.
Andy Reichart is on the other side of the theory. Dungeon Discord is just legit.
Really?
Like Double D says, I don't think it matters if a person never talks about it. Right? It's like Kelsey Dion, one of the, you know, I've had my issues with Shadowdark, but one of the great things to say in her favor is that she is a married lesbian and never talks about it, right? Or hardly ever. She might mention her wife at some point, right? But she's not like, oh, I'm a lesbian and therefore, but you know, like never, right? And
no pronouns in her game or anything. Nothing like that. Yep.
Let's see here.
We've been playing. I've been running a little bit of Shadowdark on Fridays, and I gotta say, I kind of like it.
I'm sure it must be a very good game. It has almost all the mechanics my games have. So
well, I was going to say it obviously its lineage is firmly in 5e, but you know, it's just kind of a good condensing of those rules.
Well, Crawford of the Crimson Claw says Dungeon Discourse never calls out the obvious problem of wokeism. That's true. She doesn't call out wokeism specifically, but
that's not her battle.
Also, it's clear that sometimes she doesn't care for it either, right? Like she doesn't go right at the jugular of it, but a lot of her videos make it pretty obvious what side she would kind of tend towards.
Well, you take someone like Dungeon Delver, Bill Sylvie. I mean, look, I've interacted with Bill. He's a nice guy, you know, behind the scenes. I think I can confidently say he's probably not a big fan of a lot of this stuff, but he patently will not get political on his channel just because he doesn't want to enter the fray.
Lots of guys are like that, and in some cases, if that's the channel you made, right? Like the guy who's, what is it, Mr. Welch, right? The guy that does the Mystara stuff, right? Excellent guy, excellent channel, really interesting stuff, especially if you're into, you know, Rule Cyclopedia, D&D, and the setting of Mystara. But in general, very good guy, and of course he isn't going to go around making political comments because that's not his shtick, you know. You gotta know, like, just like I'm not going to start commenting about racial politics in the middle of a video that I do here, unless it's related to RPGs. You know, like, you don't want to get off your topic, right? And for some people, political conflict in the hobby is part of our topic, for both you and me, for example. But for other people, it isn't, and then that would just be weird.
It's disappointing, but I'm never mad at them. You know, I wish there were more voices, especially those who I think know that, like, all the stuff that's going on is utterly retarded. But I also understand maybe they just don't have the energy to fight that battle, and that's fine. That's why people like me and you are here. So,
Chris Miller apart from being the incredible publisher of so many of my books, including The Last Vikings, pick it up right now. It's selling like hotcakes. It's doing so well. And you've got to see what all the fun is about. I've already been getting some people sharing YouTube audios or videos of them running Last Vikings. I love it. Chris Miller, as usual, very insightful comment here. He says, I sometimes get hints that Dungeons and Discourse is maybe secretly based, but they don't speak the truth like we do. Yeah, that's exactly the feeling that I was trying to express.
Yeah. And even if they're just normal these days, that's great. I mean, just be normal. You know,
yeah, exactly.
I would accept
that's already
that.
A win for us. And the other side knows it, because that's why they say, you know, silence is violence, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
All right, I think we're just about caught up here. Yeah, okay. So on to question number 2. So at the other week, I was on your live stream. That was your Saturday live stream, though, not your Wednesday one. And alongside with Chris Miller there, and we were talking about this, and we had already arranged that you were going to be on here, and you made a comment that the RPG Pundit encounter, that sounds kind of gay, and I have to ask, you know, you partly, but also the crowd, what sounds gayer, the RPG Pundit encounter or diversity in dragons? You know, half the people who hear that title are probably like scanning through and going, oh, diversity, no, fuck that, right?
I know.
I'm sure you lost subscribers because of that name.
Yeah, I have, but the ones that get it, they end up kind of being like almost like super fans, because they're like, oh, I get it. It basically is just a nod to diversity in comics, aka your boy Zach, who has fallen very far from where he used to be. But
this show's title was because I was originally going to call it the RPG Pundit Experience. And then somebody pointed out, well, you know, there's the Joe Rogan Experience, don't you? I'm like, oh shit, right. Yeah. So it can't be the experience. Let's make it the encounter, right? Because it's a random encounter, or rather a pre-planned,
like in a truck stop
with a guest every single episode, right? So that's what it is. It's an RPG encounter, right?
Random encounters after dark in a public park. Yeah, it's okay. It's all okay.
Right. That's
okay.
Hang on, I got a question here. Pundit and Double D. Opinions on Professor Dungeon Master's Deathbringer ttrpg being joined to the Shadowdark rules world. Okay, well, you were just talking to me about this before we started, so feel free to give your answers. I myself have seen almost nothing of Deathbringer, except it looks so, like, considering that Professor Dungeon Master looks like sort of like a professor, I guess. I don't know if he really is a professor or not. Maybe
he's just a teacher, I think he's just a teacher.
Well, I don't have a doctorate. I was a professor once, and I guess I still kind of dress like one. But he also does, right? And for that image, like, he's got then this like heavy metal Deathbringer thing. It seems so, like, because you can kind of see, okay, the guy that dresses like this is doing a game like this, right? Yeah, okay, sure. But then he's got like just something out of, I don't know, like a heavy metal album cover or something, Deathbringer. So yeah. Tell us what you think about Deathbringer, and tell us what you think about it being connected to Shadowdark. I understand it was originally meant to be its own RPG, and then he like switched and just decided to go with Shadowdark.
Well, I think it's smart. Well, first of all, and he's one of the ones I do like too. I like him, like, with no qualifications. I think he's a nice guy. He's been nice to me on Twitter.
He seems to me to be performatively nice, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, I ran into him like almost in the true sense of the word at Gen Con last year. We were just walking, and it was in the crush of like the vendor hall. I'm just like, oh shit, there's Professor DM. So I just said, hey buddy. I just turned him around and said, hey, love your channel. I didn't even introduce myself, and he was just, oh, thank you so much. And that was it. But no, I do like his stuff. I think he's another one who he doesn't get political. And I bet if he had got a couple of drinks in him, he'd think a lot of the stuff going on politically is hogwash. But he also kind of knows where his bread is buttered too. You know, he kind of pals around with like the Ginny D's and the Bobs and all that stuff. As far as him turning Deathbringer from its own game into a Shadowdark add-on, I think that's where the money is right now. So I think that's a smart move. It's getting harder and harder to justify new rule sets, you know, which are just kind of just updates. I mean, I know everyone brings something a little different to the table, but if
I mean, it's so hard to justify new rule sets that Shadowdark isn't one. So there you go.
Nothing is new under the sun, right?
But yeah, nothing is new in the OSR anyway. I mean, well, once in a blue moon, there's something new, but no OSR rule set is new. Every OSR rule set is based on every other OSR and D&D rule set that ever existed before.
Yeah, but there are their own, your own spin on it. Like Hyperborea has a real, kind of a more of a pulpy, flair.
Of course, no. Everyone will have its own little twist, right? But that's the genius of the OSR, is that, because you're right. Now I keep getting people that ask me, "Oh, what will you consult on my new game?" And I'm like, "What is your new game?" Well, it's like a fantasy RPG, but instead of using the D20, it uses a D100, and it has this point buy thing, and I've made up this thing, and I think it's got a really good combat system. I'm like, yeah, okay, but none of that is going to get you anywhere now, right? Because people are going to much rather play a game that is already based on a game they previously knew, so they only have to kind of pick up a few of the little differences that make it special, and they don't have to relearn a whole system, right? At least millennials and Gen Xers are very clearly out on that. I don't know about younger people. They might still, because when you're younger, you want to learn new systems for some reason. I remember when I was a kid, right, and this was in the 80s, right, the heyday of the first era of RPGs, and I was like, I wanted to learn all the different systems. I wanted to read every book in the comic store, right? But nowadays, I'm like, fuck, I can't be bothered, and also I know what works and what doesn't. So yeah.
Well, that's just it too. Yeah. I mean, there's the problem is you can't introduce too much complication these days. Like a lot of the games we grew up on relied a lot on charts and sometimes secondary charts to accomplish an action. That's just not going to
there were a whole bunch of the 80s is interesting. So there was a whole bunch of mechanics people were throwing at the dartboard to see what would work. And some of them did work and some of them really didn't. And you can tell which ones didn't because that mechanic either was reborn for later systems or it wasn't, right?
Well, I played a lot of James Bond from Victory Games with my one buddy because it was a good one-on-one game, and you'd have this thing called an ease factor, and then you had to find that out, and then so that was one roll, and then you had to go on another table to determine the level of your success, and it was for the time it was fine, but it just would not fly today. I mean, it just would not fly. People would not take to it. BX clone, pretty hardcore. Oh, hey, what's up, Matt? How you doing?
That's what it used to be, Lord Mateos. So anyways, what do you think? Does Deathbringer fit in well with Shadowdark? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, maybe Matt could tell us. I mean, look, if it has kind of that feel, I'm more kind of now into just kind of what's the general feel and vibe, rather than is Shadowdark OSR? A lot of people they'd say no. I would say yes. I would too. Yeah, I would too. Just because look, it's purposely going after that kind of play. Go to a base of operations, explore, come back, spend your money. Go out, explore, come back. It doesn't, engender festivals and all that bullshit. It's just very much just meat and potatoes, dungeon crawler. So in that respect,
well, I mean, it was the original Shadowdark rules are clearly for dungeon crawling, right? You can do other stuff with it, but it's made for dungeon crawling. And that kind of focus is usually good in an OSR game, right? Because we already got a lot of generic OSR. What you need is OSR does a specific thing. So we got a $10 super chat from Chris Miller. Thank you so much, Chris. That'll be going to the Domino Cat Food Fund Cat Toy Fund. And she's still on my lap. She's on my lap right now. She unlike my previous cats, she will sit there and just sleep straight through anything I'm doing. It's crazy. You guys know, just recently I did a video, right? It was a clip from my last live stream where I just can't control myself. I burst out laughing. I have literally minutes long period where I can barely talk because of how ridiculous this thing I found was, right? That whole time she was on my lap. She didn't budge. So that tells you how dedicated she is. But if she wakes up, I'm going to show her to the crowd because there are a couple of people here who haven't been on this on my channel for a while now. You're bringing some old timers back to look at my show, so thank you for that. But they were asking about Meatball. Meatball passed away in early November of last year, and so I just got a new. Well, I got a new kid 8 months ago now, and her name is Domino, and hopefully you'll get to see her. You can see her in my posts on my YouTube channel, because I constantly put up pictures of her, and she shows up on a lot of the videos now too. So Chris Miller says, without shitting on either Shadowdark or Professor DM, of course he did. It makes perfect business sense. Well, in many ways it doesn't. That's a lot smarter. I'll grant him this. It's a lot smarter to take something like what he's making and tie it to Shadowdark than to go the route of like all these other guys that started making RPGs in the moment of the OGL crisis, and now they've made RPGs that are intentionally very different from D&D and that are basically isolated because of that. His game is more likely to survive because of this.
Agreed.
So let's see what else we've got here before I get to the next question.
Another super from Almighty.
I know, I'm making my way down there. I don't want to skip anybody else though, but okay, here we go. Almighty. I know we do it. I know you do it differently on your show. On your show, you almost you'll occasionally read comments from people like me, people who are kind of well known, but otherwise it's only super chats. But I tend to like to interact.
Well, we have it's a very lively show. We average over 200
you sometimes
now,
get 200 people. Yeah, it's impossible to read everything.
Yeah.
Less complexity leads Almighty 377, $5. Thank you so much. Less complexity leads to players using their imaginations, less reliant on character sheet, in my opinion. Yeah, well, that's right. That's one of the benefits of OSR plays. It's usually lighter rules than, say, 5th edition or certainly 3rd edition or stuff like that. Apparently, Fasafan says Professor DM's Deathbringer supplement in drive-through is full of spelling and grammatical errors. Well, I chuckle at that, but I think almost any game that is self-published or published by a small print publisher is going to have some grammatical and spelling errors. So I guess it depends on what your definition of riddled is, right? Because I know that like in any of the books I've done with any of my publishers, most recently Mad Scribe, I look over it after I write it. I do a proofreading check. Then he looks over it when he's publishing it, and then when he sends me the proof, the PDF when it's prepared, but before it goes live, I look through it all over again to see for more errors, and we catch a ton of them, but there's always something that slips through, right, that neither of us catch, and that's with 2 people doing it. So it's really tough. It's a hard thing to do. That's why a professional proofreader, like in the old style printing industry, is a very highly valued position. Yeah, until Domino decides that you're right, Adito, because she flipped instantly from being like this sweet kitty that just wants to sit on your lap to suddenly biting you for no reason. So, I blame that on her troubled infancy. All right, so I think, wait, we got another one. Robert Santon, thank you for your time, $5. That's very nice of you, Robert. I really appreciate it.
Good to see you, Robert.
I'm guessing that's one of your fans. I don't know if I've seen you before here, Robert, but I hope you enjoy this show, and I hope you check out the rest of my videos. I'm sure if you like Double D, you're probably going to like what I do, and vice versa, right? So if any of my people are here who have never seen Diversity and Dragons, I certainly recommend it. Like I said, it's the channel I watch the most, apart from myself, of course. Let's move on to the next question. So what was your initial motivation to start an RPG channel, specifically an OSR channel, I guess, but what drove you to that? What's your origin story?
Well, to be fair, I didn't even start it out as like an OSR channel. That just kind of fell in naturally, just kind of based on what I was seeing. And, what I was seeing was just, all that like the goofy stuff they were doing with like Raven, like the Curse of Strahd, like with the wheelchair, that kind of stuff, the Journeys through the Radiant Citadel, like Strixhaven, that kind of stuff. I don't know. It just you could just kind of sense that things were a little different, especially after 2020, with when everything went to hell. And
so you were driven by righteous indignation, basically.
Sort of, yeah. But I, and to be fair too, I was also watching a lot of Comicsgate, particularly Ethan Van Sciver. In fact, very early in my channel's history, I actually sat with him. He had like a live stream where he opened it up to everybody, and this is only after like maybe 2 months when I was, I started my channel, and me and him, were together for like two hours. And he was like, hey, I really liked having you on, so I took that was like a huge confidence booster. I mean, I knew I could kind of do it, but then I was like, okay.
Have you done anything like this before, like in any other context outside of RPGs or something? Like you're not a professional radio guy or something, right?
No,
because you have a lot more of a radio voice than I do, for example. Like when I do a video, I sort of sound a lot like, well, back in the old days when I was TA for a class or something. I'm giving a lecture, right? But you don't. You sound like a disc jockey, basically.
Well, I thank you. No, nothing professional, but I guess honestly, just kind of DMing for as long as I have. It's just been kind of a continual stretch from I hate to say this, 1991 to present. You just kind of develop a confidence of being able to kind of handle a small group, and you can apply a lot of those same things to a bigger group. Plus, I used to listen a lot to like talk radio. So you kind of, a lot of this stuff just kind of seeps into you, and maybe it kind of gives you the tools that you don't know that you have. Basically, though, a lot of it is just confidence, just being able to know that you know how to do it, and then just doing it. So, yeah.
We've got a $10 super chat from Space Zeus. He says, Shadowdark copies the tone of popular video games like Darkest Dungeon and Dark Souls with its cute torch mechanic, alongside an almost direct rip of Pundit's leveling system. Pass for the fun. Thank you very much for that super chat, Space Zeus. And Chris Miller has a kind of odd question for you. Who's your daddy and what does he do? I'm not sure if that's an in-joke or if it's just...
My daddy is still alive. He's 87 and still kicking. Actually, he just got out of the hospital this week. He had pneumonia. So, but he is a tough old bird. But yeah, who's your daddy? Yep.
All right. So you were well known because I've got a pretty long campaign that I've been running for. It's on its 13th year now, the World of the Last Sun. But you've got a campaign that's been running for even longer, and I believe it is a Birthright campaign. And when did you start that one? Like, how many years have you been going on with that?
I want to say I think it was Birthright came out in May of '95, and we kind of started playing it almost instantly. We were kind of looking to, it was just good timing. We did
why
Birthright?
What about Birthright was, because it wasn't one of the more popular second editions. It kind of came in late, right? It was like near the end of PSR. So I think if it had come in earlier, it might have been more popular. But
right, right setting at the right time. I think we had just done maybe a year long, or 9-month-old like Planescape campaign, which was kind of balls to the wall sort of stuff. So I think we were kind of ready to okay, let's kind of bring it back into something more centered. And I'd kind of always wanted to do kind of like a more traditional epic, kind of campaign. And then all of a sudden I heard this was coming out. And my buddy, Gavin Morgan, he used to work at Walden Books. So he would sometimes get the skinny on what was happening. Remember, this was all before the internet. So he would say, hey, there's this thing coming out, Birthright. It looks really cool, and I was like, okay, and the more I saw of it, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And then, it had the mechanic where, you could kind of be a domain ruler and all that stuff. That kind of appealed to us at first, although we really only used it in that first year. After that, we just kind of used the setting and, a lot of the monsters, the big monsters, the on-Shaylin, and the NPCs. So yeah, it was just kind of like a good fit for the group at the time. And then, by the time pretty much I had turned over that whole group within 5 years. But, you know, everything was so well established that, you know, everybody coming in was just like, oh yeah, this seems really cool. This is kind of like a broken in world, so to speak. So yeah, it's just been kind of running ever since. And
how often do you run it now?
Well, you know, when I'm on, you know, it's weekly, every Friday. But you know, I do take breaks. You know, right now, I think for the first time, or at least the first time in a while, I think the group at large, in other words, there was a couple people in the group I could kind of sense, you know, their attention was kind of waning a little bit. And some of these guys have been playing in this for 25 years, so I don't begrudge them that. So I just kind of said, hey, let's take the summer off. I said, just let's recharge those batteries. But there were a couple of us who were like, you know, I still kind of want to play something. So that's kind of when I said, well, look, I talk about Shadowdark a lot. I like to know what I'm talking about. So let's run a little, you know, Shadowdark thing. So it's kind of what I'm doing now. But generally speaking, if you averaged it out over the 30 years, it would probably come to about, my guess is like eight or 9 months out of the year, on average.
Oh, that's really good, actually.
Yeah.
That's quite the accomplishment of a campaign that long. Yeah. Probably the longest first grade campaign of all time. I guess.
Well, I don't think any could be longer because, like I said, we literally did start it pretty much when it came out. I opened the box set. I said, let's go. I think a week or two later we started. Now, keep in mind, too, we used to do marathon sessions when we were all younger. We'd start at like 7 and go sometimes till 2 a.m. Now it's pretty regimented. It's kind of like 9 o'clock to midnight or 12:30. So it's usually about 3.5 hours. So it's a little shorter.
The same thing when my last Sun campaign started. We used to play for like 8-hour stretches, and now
good old days.
We start. Well, in theory, we start at 4. Though usually we don't actually start until 5, and then we're usually done by 9:30. You know, so that comes to territory. Older.
It happens.
All right. So, do you have? Because I mean, there are a lot of people who are already making games, like me, who ended up having, you know, a YouTube channel. Of course, I had my blog first, then I started making games, then I did the YouTube channel, right? But then there are some people who have channels that they started by having a channel and then they've been making a product. That's become more common lately after the OGL scandal. But even, you know, before that, there's, you know, some of these guys who have a channel and they decide to make some RPG product, probably obviously for business reasons, but also because they want to take a shot at it. Have you had any ambitions to make published RPG material?
Yes, indeed. And to be fair, I did have an adventure, a very small adventure, almost like kind of like one of those side quests published in Dungeon Magazine back in the day. I also had something published in the Kenzer Knights of the Dinner Table. In addition to the comic, you know, they would do sometimes like straight gaming material. So I have had stuff published. You know, I've given Chris Miller a couple of things. In fact, the newest edition just has a little side trek adventure. But I actually am working right now on a bit of a bigger adventure. And yeah, I mean, it's like, look, I mean, I kind of see what's out there, and you know, I see the good stuff and it kind of inspires me, and I see the bad stuff and that inspires me in another way. So yeah, I think I can bring some value. I'm not going to be trying to make, you know, my own game, but I think I can make.
We're never going to see Diversity of Dragons, the RPG.
No, never. But I do think adventures always have utility, because I think they can be mined for ideas. They can be played straight out of the book.
Absolutely.
And I still get adventures myself. So I think I can offer something there. And hopefully this fall, I'll be able to start a little Kickstarter for it. It's mostly written now. Still working on a few things, and of course, every time I think of something, it leads me to be like, oh, I should go back and rewrite this section. But I have artists already have produced good work. Patty from Patty's Parlor did some great work. Keelan, aka the Wonky, he's done work, and Greg's artist, Ken and James. I've contracted him to do some art for it as well. So it's going to have a nice look to it, and I think it'll be a good adventure that people can kind of stick in their OSR style game. So yeah, look for that. Well, like I said, hopefully this fall.
Doing adventures is always a good call, especially in the OSR, because I mean, the compatibility of the OSR means that you can make the adventure if you make it for something neutral, like, I don't know, OSE or something like that, then people can probably use it with whatever game they're running.
Yeah. So, you can usually, even the stuff that you might not be sure of, you can usually figure out if it's OSR compatible.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
very easy. Question for me here. The RPGPundit, what books are on the must-read list, particular for younger TTRPG players? I'm not sure if you mean like what RPG books, or do you mean like what literature or things like that?
Probably literature, I would imagine.
I would suppose so. Well, that caveat of younger players makes it a little different than if I was recommending it for people who are already gamers or something. But I guess there is a virtue when you're young to reading some of the more classic fantasy works, right? Like I think D&D obviously owes a lot to certain popular stories, like well, obviously Lord of the Rings, the whole Lankmar series, Elric, probably Conan.
Elric for younger. I might hold off a little. That it can get a little dark.
Well, I mean, if we're younger, talking, I mean, guys in their teens, right? Like, I don't know. I read Elric when I was about 13, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like maybe like an 11-year-old, you may want to just put a couple more years between Elric and some of these other ones.
I suppose so. Yeah. No, I guess I had a fairly libertine childhood, because you're right, Elric.
Yeah, I guess it depends. Yeah. I mean, it's nothing. I don't know. It all depends on how you raise your kid, I suppose.
And
good
the
series,
classic,
though. I loved it.
Classic fantasy and heroic fantasy are the things that you need to look at as kind of an inspiration. But obviously, if we're talking about people who are adults, I would say, okay, look, you've probably read a whole bunch of science fiction and fantasy, a lot of which were probably garbage, and some of which are not garbage but are still in that genre, right? And those are all modern fantasy is kind of pale reflections. The good ones. The bad ones are just garbage, and then the good ones are at best pale reflections of kind of the monomyth. So what I would suggest actually for older gamers is stop reading Forgotten Realms novels and start reading history books about like actual things that happened, right? Like you want to read an incredible historical book. There's a book called The Imjin War, right? And this is about the war that happened in the 16th century between Japan and Korea, and it is unbelievably interesting, right? It's Game of Thrones, but in real life, right? That sort of thing, right? And you can look at a whole bunch of different books on history, both for learning about world building. Like the best inspiration for creating worlds is really to know real world history. And then myth, right? Mythology, ancient scriptures of all kinds. You can start if you want with the Old Testament. The Old Testament's full of incredible stuff, right? And then you got stuff like the Mahabharata, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. That's not scripture, that's literature, but still. Obviously, if we're looking at the Last Vikings, the Poetic and Prose Eddas, all of this sort of stuff, expanding your mind into the humanities can actually provide an enormous wealth of RPG inspiration.
That's a good call on,
right? Like
on doing the.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say on reading like history books, I think that's a great call. I went back and just recently, I had to find it on eBay, but I wanted to find my college textbook on history because it was a super cool one and it was written by our professor, but it wasn't in like wide circulation. So, but I knew somebody would probably have it, and sure enough, somebody did. So I was able to track it down, and I'm so glad I did. It's such a cool book. It's just all about Western civilization. It's like called Civilization and Survival. It's just all about the West, you know, from the Stone Age to, you know, through the Renaissance. Stuff like that is just it's so cool just to have and just kind of pick up and read certain sections of.
I've often pointed out that, you know, history is more interesting than literature because literature inevitably is based on the structure of creating a story, right? So the things that appear in it have to have coherence and reason, and then they end up, you know, as a rule, anyways, they end up creating a there's a literary formula, right? And it fits that formula. So, you know, I know that Game of Thrones is not everybody's favorite, right? But one of the interesting things about it is that George R.R. Martin was inspired more directly by history than by literature. And he incorporated this element of what happens in real history that does not happen as a rule in literature, which is that all of a sudden someone dies for no goddamn reason, right? Like, and this is one of the things that makes history so much more unpredictable and so much more interesting is that, you know, you can have my example I always use is Richard the Lionhearted, right? Like he's one of the most badass warriors of his era, right? And he goes on the Third Crusade. He does all this incredible stuff. He gets captured. He spends a long time in prison by Leopold of Austria because he had insulted Leopold when they were both on the Third Crusade, and Leopold just wanted his revenge. You can see all that here, and in where is that?
He died in a joust, didn't he? Like from a splinter.
No, he didn't.
Was that who I'm thinking of?
Okay, here's some bills. There you go. You can get the entire biography. If you want to start with the history book, check out Heroes and Villains of the Silk Road. It's got like the biographies of almost everybody who was important in the Third, Fifth, and Sixth Crusades, as well as all of the like Genghis Khan and all the people that Genghis Khan opposed in his history. And it's written. You know, I am a historian, so it is written. It is a history book technically, and. So Richard the Lionheart, he finally gets out of prison in Austria. He makes his way back to France. He's fighting in France. He's like this is a guy that by the end of the Third Crusade, there was one time he was in a city, right? That the city was surrounded by a massive Saladin shows up with his massive army, and Richard's got like nobody there, right? Like it was like a tiny group of people. There's I think like 40 knights, something like that, right? And they're like, well, fuck it, you know, we're gonna die anyways, right? And they opened the gates and started charging out with Richard at the front, and that Muslim army just vanished. It just swept away because by then his reputation was so horrifying that not a single soldier wanted to be anywhere near him, right? So as they charged forward, those guys just moved, right? They started running, right? And like so, basically, he routed them with like nobody, right? Like if any of them had stopped the fight, they probably would have beaten them, but he just won on the sheer terror of his reputation. And then he gets back to France. He's besieging some castle, and a 14-year-old kid that's defending the castle because they had almost no one left, right? This 14-year-old kid goes and fires a crossbow bolt at him, hits him, he gets an infection, he dies, right? Like, and you know, so it's the example of why in like my games you have these critical hits that you can be a like level 15 character. You get hit by a good critical, or you get an infection and there isn't anyone around to cure you, you're gonna die, right? So it's it creates that unexpected element to it, right? That I think because RPGs aren't meant to be like, oh, you're in a novel, right? The DM isn't a novelist. The DM's supposed to be a clockwork god, right? And what that means is that unexpected things should happen, you know, and that's something that really changes your game as a DM. If you, instead of thinking of, oh, well, what would this be like if it was a TV show, you know, say, well, what is this like if it's a real world, you know?
Who was I thinking of then? I was thinking of the guy that Nostradamus did the quatrain on. You know what I'm talking about? He died like
Philip the Fair. Philip the Fair, I think is the one.
Oh, okay. Must have gotten that confused.
No,
Yeah,
not Philip. Sorry.
yeah, I thought it was British.
Luke. It was the guy that took out the Templars, wasn't it? Shit. I get my
obviously
French.
I don't know. I thought it was Richard the Lionheart.
No. Yeah.
Chris Miller talks about Robin and Mary, and that was a great movie. It's one of Rogan's
Excellent.
favorites.
Yeah,
too.
I love that. That was a fantastic movie. Yeah, and it's based on an actual, the actual story. That is a medieval story of how Robin Hood dies. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let me keep going here. We got a super chat from Joseph Rayner Johnson. That sounds like a new name to me. I don't know if you've watched me before, but if not, welcome aboard. $9.99. Just appreciate both your honesty and courage to call out the BS and bad actors in the hobby. Keep it up and never hold back. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Got it. Thank you, Joseph.
Let's see here. Chris Miller. I read the Necronomicon at 14. Any published Necronomicon is not real anyway, but I guess that does explain a few things.
I saw the other day. I don't know if you saw. I tweeted this. But somebody put a tweet out about this old movie, this Vincent Price movie called The Haunted Palace.
Mm-hmm.
It's Vincent Price, Lon Chaney, and I think Deborah Paget. Yeah. Early 60s. It's like American International, probably Sam Arkoff. It is the story of Charles Dexter Ward. But the thing is, it is advertised as Edgar Allan Poe's The Haunted Palace because they say like a poem of Poe's, but it is like the character is the character's name is Charles Dexter Ward, and in it, it's probably the first time on film there's a copy of the Necronomicon right there on screen.
Thieves World, yeah, that was a great series, actually. At least the first several books were. After that, they start going downhill. Let's see here. What else? The book Ivanhoe is outstanding. Yes, I agree.
Ooh, yeah.
Absolutely. Overkill Joe says, read what Gary and the other older creators read. Yeah, I mean, of course, that's true to an extent because it's certainly part of that's literally what influenced D&D in some of its thematics. But at the same time, Gary Gygax, happy birthday to him and God bless him and all that. But he was a very competent reader in the context of the time and place in which he lived, right? But he wasn't a guy. He wasn't an academic. He wasn't a guy who had let's say a vast area of literary endeavors, right? He was a huge fan of science fiction, fantasy, and pulp, right? And that is kind of the core of D&D. But the people who wrote those books, you should look at what they read, right? The people who wrote the books that Gary liked. What was their inspiration, right? And you go backwards, and that's where you get to like the really interesting stuff.
I kind of like the they don't get a lot of play, but they were kind of a good, kind of like easy read was the Fools series, like Fool's Errand. I think they were written by Robin Hobb. I read those probably about like 20 years ago. It wasn't too bad.
Don't think I read that one.
Yeah.
Surly Wolf says William Marshall. Yeah, well, that's the only reason why I didn't say Richard was the greatest warrior of his era was because William Marshall was from his era too. He was the only guy that ever unhorsed Richard in a fight. The only guy, William Marshall, because he was a complete badass. He also basically taught Richard how to fight, right? So let's see if there's anything else here. It was Philip the Fourth. Okay, yeah, sorry.
The dude who got.
Yeah, I got confused.
Nostradamus, Quasimodo.
My Phillips and my Louis. Quasimodo, predicted all this.
Quasimodo predicted all this.
Let's see here. Anything else? Appendix N is overrated, not bad, but there are books that aren't that great on that. Well, yeah, it was a list, because I know that there's some people, the bro SR people in particular, that think it's like some kind of a list of, like almost a divinely inspired list of inspiration for D&D, but it was really essentially the books that Gary Gygax liked, right? And that's fine, and it's good. It's an important way, if someone puts a list of the books they like in a product, that will probably tell you a lot about what the product is about, right? So that's good. But you're right. There were some books that he liked that were, and you could tell, because there's some books that became classics and endured, and other ones that we only know about them because of Appendix N. All right, let's move on to the next question. So actually, before I go on to the next question, it's not a question as such, but I thought you would find this interesting. You just did in your last live stream, you were talking about the problem with Daggerheart, or as some say it, Daggerheart, about the problems with the mechanics of it, right? And you mirrored a lot of what I said in an earlier video, which is that essentially, because every single time you roll, you're either getting a Benny for the DM or a Benny for the player, right? And that means that DM exhaustion is going to be a huge problem, right? And for that matter, player exhaustion.
For sure.
And you delineated it very well. So I wanted to tell you something. I get a lot of people that send me stuff on the down low, right, of different things, whether it's industry stuff or sometimes just gamers telling me stuff they've noticed. And I have a couple of guys that have incredibly still got actual brick and mortar, comic and game stores. And one guy, when I did my original video making that criticism of Daggerheart, he wrote to me, he said, I'm not sure you're right, because Daggerheart, it's just come out, and right away there are 8 different groups at the tables in my store that are going to be playing Daggerheart, right? It looks like it's really going to take off, right? I said, really? Well, keep me informed, right? And just like a couple of days ago, this guy writes me again, and he says, well, you know what, Pundit, you were right, because all 8 of those games have already collapsed.
All of them. I figured 6 of them.
0 out of 8 games were successful. Okay, and he said, well, I was paying attention to this because I was wondering, whether how it was going to turn out, right? And he says, well, most of them failed specifically because of rules complexity issues, right? Namely, probably what we're talking about, right?
Yep.
And a couple of them failed because of what he called main character syndrome, which is that, everybody wants to be the prima donna, right? And that's another problem. The first one is the mechanical problem, and the other one is the problem of critters playing RPGs, right?
Yeah.
Because they've got the Mercer effect going, right? And it causes huge issues. So essentially, like I said, it had a big initial draw just because of the critters, right? They're going to buy the book, of course they are, right? It's going to make money from that. But then after that, nobody's going to actually want to play it for very long, because it's a shitty game.
It is. It's got to be a tiring game. It's got to be a disappointing game, and a lot of them will just swallow that, and they'll just keep, giving the company line that, oh no, this is great, this is perfect, but it tilts the balance way too far to the players. It's still a target number game, and you're rolling 2 die 12 as a player. The DM only rolls a die 20 when he's rolling for the monsters, as far as I could suss out, and that's a huge advantage. So it's meant to be a borderline cakewalk. It gives the DM every chance to just kind of hand wave away certain things, especially in combat, and give the players the benefit of the doubt and a lot of advantage. And it does have this stupid system. Its main selling point is, hey, this is a storytelling game. Every dice roll, the story could change. Every little thing. Well, that shit will tire you out. And then as people in my chat or my comment section were saying, like, oh no, bro, you got that totally wrong. It's just a resource. So I'm like, all right, so you're already discounting the main selling point of the game, which is this selling. So now it's just, what is it? A quasi board game where you got this many tokens and you can just throw one in and make things happen. And I'm like, this game is already shit. But I the thing is, and maybe you could give me your thoughts here. I think they saw now that they have Chris Perkins mainly, and it's they also get Jeremy Crawford, who's like in sports terms. I know you're not a big sports fans, but there's always like trades that go on between teams, and sometimes you'll have stars traded, and there's always like a bench player or a scrub who gets thrown in. That's how I picture Jeremy Crawford in this deal.
Pretty much,
but they're probably kicking themselves because they're like, if we had just waited a little bit longer, we could have had at least somebody who had experience.
I always forget this guy's name, but the guy who did Daggerheart,
Spencer Stark,
very clearly a total amateur at design, right? Because let me tell you, I'll tell you exactly how you could have made that same mechanic better. So you've got 2d12, right? You're rolling, everything's the same, except that it's not that you don't get hope or fear or whatever it is. You don't get those on every single roll, right? Instead, so you've got you know that when you roll the same number on both dice, that's a critical in Daggerheart, right? What they should have done is they should have said, okay, normally you roll, if it beats the DC, you succeed. If it fails, you fail, right? But if you get doubles and the double beats the DC, then that gives you a hope point, right? If it fails to beat the DC, you get a fear point, right? So suddenly you've turned the critical system into a system where it's both critical success or critical failure, right? Where either something goes really good or something goes really wrong.
I like that.
But the odds of that are much lower than 100%, right? 100% of the time in the current system you're doing it, right? And if not, if you do it the other way, it makes it much smoother, because then it becomes something that is an exceptional moment, right? And that makes it more interesting, because if every moment is this moment of excitement and hope or drama and terror or whatever, right? Like it's just it's an emotional overdrive, right? At the very least, and eventually it becomes very difficult, as you pointed out, to keep caring about that, right? Because it turns into something mundane. This is a big error that a lot of people make in a lot of game design and setting design and things like that. That if a world where everything is magical means that magical gets boring really fast, right? A game where every roll has to have like these profound plot altering consequences means that eventually you get tired of plot altering consequences.
Yeah, if everything's dramatic, nothing's dramatic. I mean,
exactly.
you will burn out of it so quick. I see Chris has a super there.
Let me take. Yeah, I saw that, but I saw something just before that. Oh yeah, I don't know who this is, but we've got a snarky comment here. Double D looks like he wanted the Epstein files released, and now he doesn't. I'm not sure what
release it.
I don't know who that is.
Go ahead and release them.
Might be one of your people there. I don't know, or maybe one of your stalkers or something. I have a $10 super chat. Chris Miller. Modern gaming is such a popularity contest. The worst designers always fail upwards. I'm so tired of seeing games nobody will ever play make millions on Kickstarter. Yeah, well, because it's two different things, right? One thing is game design and making good games, and the other one is figuring out how to do good marketing in 2025, right? And a lot of times those things are directly oppositional to each other, right? No one will care about the care you put into your design, or even most of the times the care you put into your world building or anything like that. But they will care if you say, well, this is a game designed exclusively by Latinos or something, and then suddenly those are secrets of marketing if all you care about is getting the Kickstarter money, right? So they're two different things, right? But the difference is, I'm pretty sure that there will be people who will continue to play my games many, many years to come, possibly many, many years after I'm not around anymore. Whereas all of those kind of games, right, like the Native American Indian Kickstarter that made 7-figure or 6 figures or close to 7 figures, something like that. All of
Coyote and
these,
Crow.
yeah, that's the one, Coyote and Crow. Or all these OGL games that came out now, they're going to make 7 figures, but they're not going to stick around. You know, once in a while you get something that gets a combination of both. It certainly looks like Shadowdark, for example, is a game that is going to stick around and has made a lot of money. What are you doing? I've got a clingy cat here all of a sudden. All right. Here, for those of you who haven't seen her yet, that's Domino. Hello, Domino.
Getting big.
Hi. Yeah, she's 8 months old now. She's been spayed, chipped, and now she gets to go outside by herself. So she gets to be out in the courtyard when she wants to. All right. So where were we at now? Oh, yes. Well, I don't know if there's anything else to say on Daggerheart.
Well, I mean, other than just, I mean, that's mechanically it's a mess, but I haven't, and I think I'm going to do a follow-up video on just all the other bullshit in it.
Yeah, there's lots. There's a lot of bullshit.
Yeah. Like all the diversity bullshit. They got to me, the biggest one is the whatever. I don't know if it's a blacksmith or warrior with zipper tits. Obviously, a female to male with, and I'm sitting there staring. I'm like, no, it can't be. It can't be. It is. It absolutely is.
Have you heard anything about this Cosmere RPG?
Oh, the Sanderson one.
Yeah. Sanderson is like a science fiction author, right? Like
or fan.
I think he's the one that finished Wheel of Time, isn't he? After the original.
Yeah, I honestly don't have much of an opinion on it. It's kind of has the smell to me of kind of like the Avatar RPG, because remember everybody was like, "Holy shit, the Avatar RPG is making," and this is like the Airbender Avatar, but it made it like I don't know whatever, like $9 million or something on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Try to find me one group, like publicly who's playing this game.
Well, Sanderson's a writer. He's not a game designer, right? So I'm really wondering about. I saw John Delarose did a video about it. I mean, John Delarose obviously has a vested interest because he's like on the other side of the sci-fi and fantasy woke wars, right? And Sanderson apparently is full woke, and the game itself is full woke, and he spends apparently tons of time talking about, first of all, about how players have to, do their safety measures and all of that sort of thing, right? The X and everything else, right? But then also his world, right? It's just sickeningly woke, apparently. So, but I'm what I'm really curious about. I'm gonna have to ask John if he has any idea of this. Did Sanderson design these rules himself, or did he use a shadow writer? I think it might be a case like that, because
one way or the other, he approved it, I'm sure. So, if he didn't want it in there, it wouldn't have been in there. So,
next question.
Yeah, I would just pass on that probably.
Right. Let's carry on. I just asked it offhand because I just watched that video the other night. Wondered if you'd already.
Yeah, and I think somebody was already asking me, maybe in my chat or something, just like, hey, do you have any opinions on this? And that's enough for me. Just all of the, hey haters, we got to make this game safe. This is everybody gets a seat at the table, blah, blah. That's enough for me these days. I'm like, okay, I'm out.
We got a super chat here from Luis Rivera. Good evening, folks. Have you played any of the Free League publishing RPGs? What's the best, worst in your opinion? I haven't read or played any of them. I'm vaguely familiar with them. All right, so go ahead.
Yeah, generally speaking, I like Free League. They're not a big company, but I guess they're big enough, and they're one of the bigger companies, I suppose, that I would kind of trust these days. We played the Alien RPG, which has a pretty cool stress mechanic. It basically just seems to want to recreate alien stories. We played a little bit of Dragonbane. I like Dragonbane. It seems to be a faithful update of I don't know what is Dragon and Demon. It's something in Swedish. There doesn't seem to be
that famous Swedish RPG.
Yeah. There doesn't seem to be a ton of, modern or like woke stuff. And honestly, I'm collecting I don't know how much I'll get to play it, but I'm collecting their One Ring, the second edition, just because the books look beautiful, and I really do like just kind of picking them up sometimes and just kind of looking through them and reading. And there's nothing in there that seems to be woke or anything like that. So as far as the systems go, they're all sort of different, which I kind of I kind of like that. Some of the systems carry over to their games, others don't. So generally speaking, I have a positive view of Free League.
All right. We've got a $10 super chat from Garhant. Hope I pronounced that right. Looking at Harmony Ginger putting in earlier modes of D&D, say OE, where there's heavier politics, collaborative building of the campaign world, physical culture, races, and PvP. Your take?
Well, for me, I think all that's fine except the PvP. That sounds good on paper, but you're dealing with people, and even people who aren't terribly sensitive. They may just be looking to game just to relax and like do something from their childhood. They don't want to get stabbed in the back by somebody at the table. And it may seem like fun at first, but I'm just saying, if you have the right group, then go for it. But I'm saying, don't be surprised if somebody's just like, you know what, this is not really what I want to be doing, on my Friday nights or whatever. So it can lead to some pissed off people. But
well, as I understand it, Harmony Ginger has been running these kind of, she calls them Bronsteins. I don't know if they're actual real Bronsteins or if they're the fake Bronsteins that the OSR that the Bro SR uses. Or
I think she tries to keep it legit. I mean, I think she talked to Dave Wesley. I think she legitimately is trying to.
Well, I know she for a while she had become kind of the it girl of the Bro SR for a bit, and then she had a falling out with them or something. But I don't know.
I didn't even realize that.
But
I like Harmony.
That sort of game. If it is a Bronstein style game, let's say even a Bronstein inspired game, PvP would probably make a lot more sense, because in that sort of game, each character is running a faction, right? So they could be making and breaking alliances, right? That could be something that happens with frequency, as compared to in a regular RPG where you usually have the gaming party and they're all united. And in that, I totally agree that if you're running a game and you have a standard type of player party, and then there's this one asshole that just decides, oh well, I'm going to be the guy that steals from everyone else, and maybe I'll even stab someone, like that's never good, right? Like it's always one of those variants of players that really are.
But if everybody knows what they're signing up for, and like you said,
it's
sort of part of the game.
A lot of times those are the guys that just decide that mid-game, and they're like, what? I'm just role-playing, right? Like that sort of thing is shit, right? But if you start the campaign saying, look, well, you guys are all, your guy is, you're in charge of the West Marches, and this guy is in the Hill Lands, and you guys are all, rulers of these domains, and now you guys are gonna try to fight it out amongst yourselves. Well, that can be interesting too, right? But I think that's where the PvP comes from there, and so that makes it a bit more acceptable compared to like if you were doing a dungeon crawl and you suddenly had people killing each other.
Used to just be, they would say, hey, what do you want me to do? I'm chaotic neutral, man.
Okay. Chaotic neutral is the excuse
I can do
it. Joseph Brainerd Johnson says, but Daggerheart has a scented candle. That's got
and bathrobes.
That was only, they only included the scented candle in these special boxes that they did for like the big YouTube influencers, which is like, it makes it extra funny in some way, right? Like, they think the scented candle would be the thing that would like put them over the top, right? I don't know. Maybe the scented candle is hollow and it's got just a big wad of cash inside,
Smells like loneliness.
Andy Reichert says Chunkless and Chupacabras would be a fun game though. That's funny. Daggerheart. Trying to catch up here. Yep. Sanderson is an embarrassment. Yeah, well, I was quite shocked when John Delarose pointed out that Sanderson's gone like that level. It's a real, like he's talking about how, like in the magical world of Cosmere, I forget what the name of the world, I don't think that's the name of the world, but in the magical world of this setting, the energies of the world mean that you will eventually just transform into your own true gender if your character is, trans. It's like, holy shit, that's a whole new level of creativity there, dude.
From what I don't know, just all these games, from what I've seen, just the look of them just turns me off. It just has this too clean, like look to it. Everything's just so, I don't know, so bright and like, oh, let's all go down to the inn and have a nice drink and dinner, and then we'll go to the night market and do a bar crawl.
I guess Mormons ain't what they used to be. Thanks again, Pundit and W. Robert Sand. Well, thank you. Have a good dinner.
See you, Robert. Thank you, buddy. Good to see you.
Given how far behind I am in the comments. Yeah, there you go. The Bro SRs where she pulled inspiration, they PvP the entire world. So we used to do a lot of PvP back in the 80s. I never liked it, says Chris Miller.
I think if you announce up front, like, hey guys, anything goes.
If it's something that's inherent to the campaign and everybody knows it, that's fine.
Yeah. Then you have no right to bitch about it. But if you're kind of like, this is kind of like D&D, right? Oh yeah. And then somebody starts.
Frank Joseph says, thank you both for explaining what RPGs really are. That's nice.
Thank you, Frank. Good to see you too.
So next question. What at the time, at this time, let's say, are the games or OSR books that you found particularly good?
Yeah, so I went to CNYCon and then Origins in kind of like quick order, and then I was able to hook up with Greg Gillespie, who I know you've had on a couple of times.
Great guy.
Yeah, great. I love Greg. So me and my wife had a great time with him and his lady. And I kind of picked up Dwaro Deep, which was his more kind of like his love letter to Moria. It's one of his mega dungeons. So I'm really enjoying that. I think it's one of the better adventures I've ever read. And at Origins, I was fortunate enough to just kind of meet up, because he was selling there, Jeff Talanian, Hyperborea. So I've been kind of going through that right now. And that is a really, really cool pulp game. It's OSR, but it has that kind of pulp fantasy flavor to it. So I'm really enjoying going through those two things right now. In addition, like I said, to kind of writing my stuff and doing all the other things. But yeah, those are the ones that I'm currently enjoying.
That's good. That's good. I'll say for me that I've been recently, nowadays I mostly run my own games, right? But I do obviously get stuff to review and stuff like that. And obviously all the stuff that the Red Room puts out is really fantastic. It's great. Yep. Third OSR stuff. And Absolutely. I was a little while back, someone sent me first the PDFs and now the booklets of an RPG that they did. It's a young guy, it's in his 20s, called the game is called Barrows and Borderlands. I interviewed the guy on a previous episode of the RPG Pundit Encounter, and it is just a fantastic. It's done it's in the box with the little pamphlets, and it's done to be totally reminiscent of the original D&D box set, but it is just D&D, old style D&D taken into this weird gonzo post-apocalypse type world that for me, the rules are mostly standard OSR stuff, either or from the original D&D rules or a few alterations, like he has die rolling for spells and things like that. But the setting is just such a fantastic Gonzo setting that I was absolutely blown away by it. I'm going to be doing a review of the book itself later on, but
to check that out.
It's well worth checking out. Yeah, and it's a guy that came out of nowhere. He said, "You want to when you let me send you this?" I'm like, oh, "Yeah, sure, but if I'm going to review it, you need to send me the actual books." And first, and then I saw the PDF. I said, "Oh yeah, you should definitely send me the actual books." You know? And then he got on my show. So those are the things I've been looking at recently. Overkill Joe says, "You better say Baptism of Fire."
Last Vikings.
You gotta watch out, you know, when you've got sponsors and such. You know, you gotta.
It's a good game. Yeah. It is.
Yeah. What have we got here? Okay. Question from Factustos. I have a question. Do you find that people tend to play similarly across characters or not, and does this change with time or system? Well, what's your experience of that, Double D?
I do think they do play similarly. Like my buddy Crazy Mouse, he has just kind of, you know, he's kind of in this comfortable setting where he wants to play a thief. So when we're playing kind of like any kind of fantasy game, he's always kind of a thief, and he's not always the exact same, but he does, you know, follow a lot of the same beats. You know, Rogan, he tends to want to be like a butt kicker kind of character, you know, who can deal out a lot of damage. You know, a couple of the other players at my table, they do like to kind of mix it up a little bit, which is always nice. So I think some do like to keep the familiar, and then some do like to kind of challenge themselves. So a little bit of both.
Well, in my experience, there have been some gamers who, like, the character they play is very different from one game to the next, right? But they can be, in one game they can be, you know, a fighter, and the other one a magic user, and in one of them the guy is like goofy, and the other one is the other character he's playing is serious, and so on and so forth, right? But there are a lot of players who do one of three things, right? Either they always have the one class and or archetype that they want to play, like you're saying, you know, the guy always wants to be a thief. Thief is a very good example because thieves are not one of the more popular classes. But there are guys that like being thieves, and they like being thieves a lot, right?
Yes.
And then there are people who will play a variety of classes, but they're always playing the same kind of like personality, right? Like the brooding loner wizard or the brooding loner fighter, right? Or something like that, you know? And then the third one is the guy who's basically just playing himself. And, you know, he could be any class, race, or whatever. It could be one time he could be like a human warrior, and the next time he could be like a lizard man cleric or something, but he's still just Jeff or whatever, you know, he's just playing in the game, right? So, you know, none of that is exactly wrong, but I guess it depends on, you know, what you want, right? Like some people want to do more like deep character interpretation than others, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if they're there just, if you're all there to have a good time, and if that's their comfort zone, as long as it's not causing, you know, trouble, like for the DM, just, you know, I would never try to stop them. Just you did bring up a good point though, because sometimes Rogan will want to play like kind of like a loner character, and then sometimes those can be good, but if every character is kind of like a loner character, sometimes it does kind of cause issues, you know, like with the group, like, okay, everyone else is off doing this, you're off doing this. So there were a couple of times I've told Rogan, like, hey, with this guy, you know, let's try to fit in instead of fit out. And to his credit, he's always been like, oh yeah, absolutely. So
yeah, the real problem is when you get some guy that wants to play something that is like directly opposite to the game, right? Like I ran a game in historical China once, right? And it was China during the Han Dynasty, right? So it was that time period of about, you know, the first 2 centuries AD. And there was one player that he wanted to play a Roman there. He just wanted to be a Roman that had somehow gotten there. Right? And I was like, this is going to be, well, you know, it's not going to go the way you think, right? Because it's that you're going to just be an outsider. But he's like, oh no, I'm a Roman and I could do anything. It's terrible stuff. And it was like that same guy. Later on, I ran a campaign of the Legion of Superheroes, right? Like from the comic book, the Legion of Superheroes, and so it's both science fiction and supers, right? And the guy, that same guy, he said, "No, I want to play a reporter. I don't even want to be in the Legion, but I'm the guy that reports about the Legion." And it's like, it just made it so fucking complicated, like.
Yeah, some guys want that extra attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they just want a little extra attention.
Yeah,
like I said, you can give it to them a little bit, but if it starts to get disruptive, you have to kind of sit them down and be like, "Hey, look, I can't be running two separate games while we're at the same table. Their game."
Yeah, in comparison, the guy that just always plays himself it's not a problem. It's fine.
No.
He can play himself.
No.
as long as he's not like sucking up all the oxygen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're almost at the last question here. So
right.
If you're in the audience right now, how many people have we got in here right now? 106. That's
I got
quite
109.
good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hit that like
So
button.
if any of you have any questions for Double D or myself, I guess this would be a good moment to present them. Well, as Double D said, hit the like button, and after, if you care to, please share the link to the live stream. And if you want to support me, you can always check out all of my products. My latest book is The Last Vikings, which is a setting source book for Baptism of Fire, but you can use it basically on its own for any kind of OSR Viking campaign, right? It's a setting book, but it's got some Viking magic in it, and magic items and monsters, and it has some new Viking character classes, and of course the entire timeline of the Jomsburg era from 985 to 1043, I think it is. It's a very good selling game. It hit Electrum faster than any product I'd ever had before. And you should check that out. Check out all my other products. Check out right now at the Red Room store, the Pundit Files, which is my collection of PDF. I guess you'd say it's a PDF periodical. There's 35 issues of it so far. The latest one is really interesting. It's Pundit Files 35. It's called The Dungeon of Doom. And the Dungeon of Doom is based on a dungeon map created by Zoran Peterson, who is the 13-year-old grandson of Sandy Peterson, creator of Call of Cthulhu. And Zoran did this dungeon map. His grandpa posted it proudly on X and said, "Take a look at this, guys," right? And I saw it, and it's fucking hilarious. It's an incredibly good map. Especially, it shows a kind of not wisdom, I'd say, but cleverness beyond his years, right? In terms of it's got some very amusing elements to it. And so I know Sandy. I've had him on my shows and stuff. And so I wrote him. I said, "Hey, would your grandson mind if I fleshed it out into a written dungeon module?" He said, "No, he'd love that. Just put him in the credits." So I did that, and there it is now. It's the Dungeon of Doom. It is a very challenging. A very challenging, basically death trap style dungeon with some weird and serious enemies in it, and you're gonna have to be pretty crafty to get through it. But it's perfect for any kind of a weirder fantasy moment in your campaign, or if you're running obviously a Gonzo game, it'll fit right in, So be sure to check that out. It's at the Red Room store. It only costs $3.50, just like every other one of my Pundit Files. So if you've got $3.50, you can afford an issue of the Pundit Files. Check them all out.
Apparently, he was a big hit at VentureCon too, Sandy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he was. He's great. He's one of the good ones.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
We're lucky he's around. What kind of flowers did Rogan like? R.I.P. Rogan.
Inside joke, right? Rogan has been spotty on the show lately, so everybody's like, "Oh man, R.I.P. Rogan." probably daisies. I would imagine. Rogan looks like a Daisy guy. Thank you, Joe. Good to see you.
Is this another inside joke? Would Hiccup be a berserker or a Volva? I'm not sure who Hiccup is. So
yeah, that's one for you. That's Viking related. Who's Hiccup?
It is Viking related, but I'm not sure.
Hiccup?
Who's Hiccup? Yeah, I don't know. We've got some very, very esoteric chat posts here. The Forgotten Realm books have exactly on the cover who they want. Yeah, that's another terrible thing, right? Like the fucking, and it's true, right? Like the modern day, because so much of this is stock art, right? Like you can tell these are models that were taken and then like they're just painted over or whatever. So some of the older covers that were like filled with kind of mystery or action or things like that, movement pictures, they don't do that anymore. They just do stuff of people like hanging around, Yep. Hey, look at that. You made it work. I don't know how you did that. I have no idea.
I can present. I can grab stuff and then
look at that
off of my computer.
Yeah. So it's just absolutely terrible, right? Like it's just, diversity all over the place, right? Again, they're making a point of not having a single white guy in there, right? So you've got
the the Minsk. I think Minsk
is that guy meant to be human because he doesn't quite look human. Right?
He is. He's got a gerbil, which is a complex thing there.
It's all this like cutesy poo bullshit, right? It's just so stupid. I can't believe it. And of course, it's going to be a terrible book, anyways, because they ruined the realms in 5e.
Well, who's going to write it? Who's there to write it?
That's a great question. It doesn't say here anywhere. No, it doesn't.
No.
Like there's nobody who's got the talent to do it. But then again, they already said they can use AI to look at the entire back catalog of WotC and TSR, right? So they could just, if they like fed the previous Forgotten Realms stuff into the AI, they probably could just get the AI to do it at this point.
And it would do a pretty good job. It would do better than
anybody. It would do a better job than any of the humans working there, right? Like, I'd rather trust Grok to make the next Forgotten Realms manual than Mackenzie DeArmas, for sure.
For sure. Yeah,
Jesus
absolutely.
Christ.
Absolutely.
Let me see here. Okay, RPG Pundit and Diversity and Dragons. Best fast food fries.
I mean, I like Five Guys as fries. But I don't like going to Five Guys because I don't like their burgers. So it would, like, if their fries and McDonald's burgers, I think that would be the perfect match.
I've never been to Five Guys.
Expensive.
I think that's more American than anywhere else. So.
Oh yeah. But honestly, you just go for a burger, fries, and a drink. 20. Yeah. With now you have to tip it, of course, at the counter if you want to, but over $20 for just a bog standard burger, fries, and a drink. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's why I don't really go there, because the burger's not worth it. It's okay, but it's not worth that.
I think probably the best fries are from El Palacio de las Papas Fritas here in Montevideo. So there you go. I don't think that's very helpful.
Write that down, peeps. Yeah.
There you go.
Just go over to your local corner. What was it again?
I'm not a huge fry guy myself, but I would say that they make very good fries there, obviously, because they're a fry-focused fast food place. Sandy's a cool guy. VentureCon was a blast. Yeah, I'm sure VentureCon was great. I'm glad that keeps working out for Venture.
It's great gaming there. It's not a ton of people. There's two conventions I'm really high on, and that's I do like VentureCon just for kind of like the intimate, like, there's only a couple of groups going at any one time, but everybody's kind of playing in each other's games, so it's really cool. And then the CNYCon that Roger ran, Roger Rivas, that is, I think, is gonna end up kind of being like a mini North Texas, because he's very OSR friendly. Greg was there. I think even Jeff Talanian said he might have gone, but he had like something was going on personally. So yeah, if you have a chance next year, go to Central New York and VentureCon, of course, too.
So apparently Hiccup is the main character in How to Train Your Dragon. Well, I'm sorry, Mario Word, but neither I nor Double D are millennials, so we don't know that.
Failed our pop culture role. Well, the thing is, I had an outside chance.
If you ask either of us who Snarf is, we would know. Okay, but we have no idea who Hiccup is.
Well, I have kids, so but this just, that whole How to Train Your Dragon kind of hit a little too late, because there was a time where, believe it or not, I was up on these sort of things.
Oh, sure. When you've got little kids, at the age that your kids are little, sure, you're going to be more aware of these things.
From like 2005 to 2012 was probably like the
$5 super chat from Garhent there. Seattle race Marxists, completely self-absorbed. Watsy art is now all self-easily paid. That's how they think. Well, and again, the Forgotten Realms cover has to have a powerful black woman, right?
Yeah,
of course. It's like,
and the one in red is too. Let's just say that the one in red is also. Put it up again. Put it up again.
She's in red, but it's basically
I mean,
and so at this point there are more women of color in WotC books than there are in the entire hobby, right? And by quite a margin, I think. So like it's incredible how they are trying to maintain this ridiculous illusion.
I've been to the bigger conventions, and some might even say, oh, the woke convention. I still think they're a lot of just kind of mainstream. But last year I was at Gen Con. I was just at Origins. Guys, as far as like sisters there, honestly, even at Gen Con, it was under 10.
Of course.
And, at Origins, it was under 5. A few more brothers there just playing, which I kind of expected too. But, even there wasn't obviously a lot. It's still mainly just white people, mainly men, more white women probably than, when we were kids, of course. So yeah, they definitely are, a bigger part of it. But this whole thing about sisters being a huge part of the hobby, it does not exist. I'm telling you, this is objective. I looked around and I was just kind of like paying attention. I would do walking streams through the vendor hall of both Gen Con last year and Origins this year. You can watch them yourself. Count how many you see. The only ones you'll see generally are workers.
It's not a discrimination thing. It's a cultural thing. Right? There are cultural aspects to this, right? Like,
it's just
in Canada, multicultural society. I've been gaming since I was 11, right? So I got to see it all, and basically in Canada, the vast majority of them were white kids, but there was also a very significant number of Asian kids who like to play RPGs, and that makes sense because of the culture, right? An Asian boy, you're going to be kind of nerdy, right? You're going to be into D&D, but you did not get a lot of black kids, right? It was because it was a different culture, right? And you definitely didn't get a lot of girls in general. Almost any girl you did get was going to be white. There might have been occasionally an Asian girl, right? But you're not going to get a black girl playing. You're not going to get.
Let's put it on the table here. Your average brother is going to view all this as FAGGY, and that's it. That's all. That's all it is to them. And it's like it's a cultural thing. And you know what? I don't even disagree.
You get the occasional black nerd, and of course that's great, right? I mean, nobody's saying we wouldn't want there to be a black girl playing RPGs, right? We're just saying it's not the norm, and it's never going to be the norm, right?
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that it's that's wrong. It just means that's reality, And
it's the attempt to gaslight. It's the total attempt to like twist reality and gaslight you into thinking, oh no, this is the way it is. It is not the way it is. And it doesn't matter how loud the few that there are scream about it online. That doesn't automatically bring into existence 10,000, sisters gaming or, 10,000 brothers gaming. It just doesn't. And like you said, it's we don't care. I don't care if they can game, they can game. If honestly, if you can hang with like the old school and aren't going to be offended, by, some very basic stuff that we would do in old school games, like murder, pillaging, stuff like that, or, if you can hang with that, then you have a seat at any old school table. But don't sit there and try to lie to us and say that, no, this is reality, when it's not. It's just, it's not reality.
This is the norm,
Yeah.
Well, the biggest joke of that is that they've suddenly said, oh yeah, now, it used to always be that there was only about like 20% of gamers who were women, and now there's like 40%, right? Well, okay, how much of that extra 20% are just former male gamers now calling themselves women? Come on.
Well, let me tell you this. I will say this. In my time at we're talking mainly Gen Con here, although a little bit at Origins, there's more trans people than Black women and Black men combined. Definitely.
Sure. No, I'm sure that's probably true, right? Because LGBT people will tend to get into marginalized hobbies, and for a long time, RPGs were a marginalized hobby, right? It was a geeky hobby, right? And for the most part, the gay kid in school is probably going to be hanging out with geeks and not with jocks, right? If he's kind of visibly, you can kind of tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chris Miller, $2. We should publish the adventures of Mr. Lemmings. I don't know how we've gotten to there in the chat. I must have missed things in the chat. Something is going very wrong with the chat.
It's because of the gerbil guy. Put the cover up again.
That one I got.
Put the cover up again. We can see him on the shoulder.
Didn't work.
There he is, Mr. Hamster.
I don't know what that's about, but
I still get hardcores in my audience who are like, oh, I love that. I love Minsk and Boo. I love you too, Double D, but I love Minsk and Boo. He's old school. They're like, wait, he came before all the current stuff, and I'm like, that doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, there are 2,000 Forgotten Realms novels, and maybe 3 of them are good. Okay, all the rest are just trash.
I'm reading the first Dragonlance book right now.
You mean the original one, Dragons of Autumn Twilight? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, see that was an okay book, right? I mean, it's very derivative in some ways.
Yeah.
What I find it's really interesting is that it's a cross between Lord of the Rings and the Book of Mormon, right? So that makes it super weird, right? But it really is, right? Especially that's comparative religious studies, right? I know this shit, and there's so much stuff from the Book of Mormon in that trilogy,
Well, I needed to cleanse my mind because I had just gotten through Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. That was a bit of a slog. So I'm like, I need something very easy, something I can just kind of relax to. And this is certainly filling the bill. It's
that makes sense. RPG Elite, I think I've seen that video talked about black culture relative to TTRPGs. Explained.
He did,
yeah, absolutely. He's very good.
He said there's a religious component to it and a cultural. Religious, they're still kind of caught up in some respects in the satanic panic.
That's the devil's work.
Yeah, devil's work. And also culturally, like it's not seen as manly for dudes to do it.
I had Latina girlfriends. I tell them I'm into gaming. They're here to do it. Well, look, I live in a Latin American country. I'm part Latin American myself. And I can tell you that it's about a 50-50 split. Right? I do see there are, I think, a slightly larger percentage of female RPG gamers, real females in the Uruguayan scene, which is quite a large scene, but compared to the side of the country. There's probably at least around somewhere close to 1,000 active, serious tabletop RPG gamers in the zone here, and a bigger percentage of them are probably women than there would have been in at least Canada in the 1990s, and a lot of them did start as being girlfriends of a gamer, right? But there's also about it, like I said, 50-50 chance that your Latina girlfriend will have zero interest in playing RPGs, will not tolerate playing it herself, but she probably will let you play RPGs. Right? So that's something at least. Right? She won't hold it against you. Right? Like she'll be busy doing other things with the girls while you do things with the guys, because I think part of the Latino culture is also men and women even if they're in a deep relationship or they're married or something, they also have their own separate lives, right? That they do their own things. Let me see. Role-playing games were not a Hispanic or African-American past in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Yeah, that's right. But, you know, like, again, in South America, there are several countries that have a very active gaming community, and obviously so does Spain and Portugal. Let's see here. Dragonlance was groundbreaking.
I got one for you to share there.
Oh God! Well, wait a minute. Is that one? That one isn't. This isn't from the Realms book, though, is it?
This is Daggerheart.
Daggerheart. Yeah.
Zipper tits.
Yeah.
No denying it.
Sexual reassignment surgery scars. Yeah, it's
So
fucking
stupid.
ridiculous. Like, how would you do that in a pre-industrial society? Like, what the? This is some of the stuff that is just idiotic to me. You know? Like, why would in comparison, what Sanderson says, where like the magic air of the wonderful world of Cosmere will turn you into your true gender. That actually makes more sense than that bullshit there. You know that it's somebody went to the medieval surgeon and they did a breast replacement. You know.
Yeah. How'd that conversation go? Excuse me, Doc.
I'm like people who don't understand what a pre-industrial society is like, you know, like what you can or can't do in it, you know.
Let's take this through logically. A girl goes to her local leech, you know, doctor. Hey, doc, I feel there's a man trapped inside of me. What do you think he's going to do? He's going to burn her as a witch or something. I mean,
at least make it like what the Amazons were, where, you know, supposedly they would cut off a breast so that they would be better at archery, you know, and you know, have a horrific looking scar there, right? Okay, that you can do, right? But the idea that there's like a really nice surgical scar there that is
put it up again. I want to see it again.
Well, I keep double clicking. There we go.
Let it ride for a second. Let these people drink it in. There's your number one role-playing game, according to a lot of people. This is the D&D killer here. This. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Be a freaking break.
Yeah.
So stupid.
Chris Miller says, can you imagine going to the Hospitallers and asking for a sex change? Yeah, well, you know, the medieval equivalent of a sex change was becoming a eunuch. You know, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem with the whole concept. Like these things that they try to push as like objective categories, right, of gender and things like that. No other society on earth had those same categories. And you know, there are lots of societies in history that had varying gender categories. All of them are a bit different, right? And none of them, you know, none of the specific ones carry on from one society to another. So you could say, yeah, there's definitely people who do not feel like they fit in their gender, but the way a society deals with that is unique, right? There's nothing about what they're doing now that is in any way scientific or objective, right? It's just a specific nonsense somebody has come up with and everybody else has been forced to pretend is actual science or something.
We didn't even talk about Dungeon Master University.
We did not talk about Dungeon Master University. Yeah, well, you saw a bit of my video the other day. I know you did a thing on it. I took a really deep dive where at first I looked at each of the 4 categories that you would get to or the 4 courses, and for each, if you went to Dungeon Master University, you'd be paying a minimum of $900 and as much as well as $2,200. And the difference being that with that one, you will get a tote bag and a leather jacket with the logo of Dungeon Master University. But no matter which tier you're in, you only get to take one of the 4 courses, right? Which is just, it seems so insane to me, right? Like the amount of money you're spending. But on top of that, then I looked at each of the instructors, right? And and they're all terrible, right? Absolutely terrible.
B.
Right?
David Walter.
Yeah. There you go. And the only one that somehow stands out a little bit is the world building one that has Keith Baker and Monty Cook, who are people who have actually built worlds, right? So that's kind of something.
If you want to get rid of Chris's comment, yeah, and I think I can lead us through this. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Dungeon Master Universe. This is a legit thing. If you haven't seen Pundit's video, good Lord. 4 courses.
It's by the same people who made D&D in a Castle, right? Which was also a huge disaster too. Yeah.
They have primary courses, including skill building, campaign building, world building, career building. Yeah, B. David Walters is one of these clowns, right?
Yeah. That's the guy that did the Afrofuturism RPG, right?
Did he do that? I only know him as kind of like the he's kind of like the token black DM for
No, he did a big Kickstarter for this RPG several years ago now. It was, I think it got to like 6 figures, and it was this Afrofuturist RPG. He was one of the big guys behind Sword Dream, right? Where the OSR people were saying, we're not going to call it the OSR anymore because the OSR is full of, Nazis, and so instead we're gonna call it Sword Dream, right? Which sounds like Sword Dream. Yeah, Sword Dream. And that lasted for about 5 minutes.
Oh my God. Hey, and if you don't have $2,200 sitting around, you guys can go to the silver tier for $995.
Low price of $995. Or you can go on my channel, look at the playlist called "They Taught You D&D Wrong on Purpose," and you can get a full education on how to DM in the many videos I put on there.
Chris Miller, this is in Brookhaven, Georgia. Maybe you can take the course for us. Tell us what it's like.
His hometown. He says it right there. It's in my hometown.
B. Dave Walters. Who's Mike Tinney?
Don't really know. I read about him last night, or the other week, but I've forgotten already.
Amanda Heyman. She's the one with the big like mole on her face.
Yeah. And they're all nobodies, right? Like except for I don't know how they got Monty Cook and Keith Baker in there, but they must have paid them a lot.
Yeah, they had to have thrown a little bit of money to, especially Monty.
So I was looking at the one on career building there, right? And it says it names 2 people, but then it names 2 companies, right? One is Drive Through RPG. Okay, I know that. So it's telling you about how I presume that they're going to teach you. Somebody from Drive Through is going to teach you all about how to, publish on Drive Through. Okay, that's kind of useful, right? Then the other one I never heard of was called Start Playing Games. So I go and I look up the website for Start Playing Games, and essentially it is a online paid DM service, right? So it's basically fans for would-be professional dungeon masters, right? Where it's like they literally show the campaign that they wanted, or the game. It could be a one-shot, it can be a multiple, it could be an ongoing thing, right? How much they're going to charge you, and you get to go on there and watch them on cam DM for you. Right? It's like it's so sad, right? And
wow,
it's just horrifying, horrifying.
Yeah, here's Amanda Heyman. She is a nasty. President Trump would say she's a nasty woman.
Nasty woman, exactly.
Nasty woman. Yeah. Fully woke. Yeah, she is she's a bad hombre. Wow. Yeah, these people. B. Dave Walters. Best known as the host and dungeon master of Invitation to Party on G4. It's G4 TV. So right now, they are puffing up his G4 TV credits. I'm assuming that is the new iteration of G4 that was a complete disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Had to be. Dungeon master for the cast of Stranger Things on Netflix Geeked. Oh God. Literally he gets all of this only because of the color of his skin. I don't want to hear one more thing about like.
It's not that he's a game designer who happens to be black and now gets like feted for it or something. It's that he intentionally made his whole blackness the center of his career. You know? The Motherlands RPG, that's the name.
Yeah, Motherlands. Wow.
The Afrofuturist RPG. Yeah, again, it's real hundreds of thousands of dollars in Kickstarter. Nobody's ever played it.
Mike Tinney. Who is this guy? Industry veteran.
Oh, he's a White Wolf guy. He did a bunch of stuff for White Wolf.
Oh, okay. Okay, that explains it. Yeah.
And then since then, he's done nothing of importance.
CEO. Okay, so he actually became CEO of.
Yeah, when it started falling to pieces. That's exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, he got the tag "You're It" after Vampire had run its course.
And there's no one worse than a White Wolf guy to be teaching you how to DM, right? Because their whole deal is the storytelling, right? Is that you treat your campaign as your own personal novel and your players are just spectators in it. You know, like it's the worst theory of game mastering in the world.
I don't know this woman. Kelly Lynn DeAngelo. D&D in a Castle, Dungeon Master.
Oh, she was on Critical Role.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
She's a Critical Role person.
No fight in this one. Young girl on Critical Role. Yep. God, it's like how long have you been playing, or how long have you been DMing? Oh, 5 years. I've been DMing 5 years.
Destroso says, if you want a DM masterclass and a hell of a good time, go listen to Pundit's World of the Last Sun campaign. That's on the Build the Elf YouTube channel. It's the best thing since Monty Python's Flying Circus. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate that.
Nice.
Yeah, World of the Last Sun is very different than most of my campaigns. Most of my campaigns are really serious historical campaigns. World of the Last Sun is a gonzo post-apocalyptic fantasy world, and it's just insanity after insanity, and we laugh so much in that game. It's great.
Eliza Teague. I haven't heard of some of these people. I mean, granted, I don't keep up with like everything, but like they're pumping them up like, oh, there you go. There's your pronouns.
Yeah, well, I read her various works here, apart from Dungeons & Dragons and Marvel Universe, everything else there, I have no idea what they are except for Kids on Bikes, which is horrible.
Oh yeah. Is that Evil Hat?
I think so.
No, it might be somebody else. Gloomhaven. Well, Gloomhaven, I have the first one. I mean, that's a board game. All right, so Power Rangers. Oh, okay. So I think she's kind of into this, and this is an area of like RPGs I'm just not that familiar with. But I mean, I do know people who like Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, and Transformers RPGs. I have no knowledge of those, but I do know they exist. Like I think Grim Jim might have like some knowledge of that stuff. T-shirted historian, I think maybe. She wrote the chapter on how to use puzzles in your game for D&D's Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Oh, a terrible source book for 5e. Terrible.
Yeah. It was part of the beginning of the end for 5e there.
It seems like, some of these people, they literally just got their jobs based on who they are. And just because they can write.
I mean, obviously something like this kind of a business, you need to have celebrity people, right? And the irony is that most of these people are very D-list celebrities, even in the RPG world, right? Like the only two that are immediately identifiable to all gamers would be like Monty Cook and Keith Baker, right?
Even this guy, I'd be like, oh, he probably has a story he's probably been involved in a lot of stuff.
They're all second stringers or third stringers or something like that.
Yeah. Clint McElroy.
I had never heard of it, but somebody commented in the last live stream that he's an asshole or something,
Not surprising. He's written he's written comics. All right. I mean, Adventure Zone podcast. I don't know what the hell he's. All right. Okay.
That is a shocking thing to admit, Chris Miller, that you used to be friends with the White Wolf guys, but fair enough.
Yeah, the old TDS.
Yeah, pronouns all over the place. Absolutely, Matthew.
Oh, yeah.
Pronouns to be over there.
That's easy. I wonder if Monty showed his. Oh, yeah, he, him, his.
It was probably in the contract. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if
fine with it, you know, like I'm sure
I'm just wondering if Shanna has turned him into a they them yet.
Oh, yeah.
That is an old picture. I'm here to tell you. Take a look at Monty these days. Whatever Shanna is doing to him, like she is sucking the soul. Like he looks like a lich. He traded in probably like 20 years of the best sex he's ever had for like now he's on the back end of that deal. Brutal. All right, you can stop sharing if you want to. I just wanted to take a look at that.
Well, there you have it, you guys. That's pretty incredible.
Go to
I love that. Fucking OnlyFans for people looking for a DM, you know.
God.
That could get confusing too, because if you use like the full term, right? Like I'm looking for a dungeon master. Some poor asshole might have the wrong impression, you know, and then things are gonna get really kinky.
Boy, how hard up to pay $2,000.
Yeah. But it's hilarious. Like in their area about like how to make a career out of DMing, they refer you to like, you know, to basically be a cam girl for people who are too incompetent or inept to get into any regular gaming group without paying for it, you know. It's just
honestly, like AI DMs, like no lie, I think one guy in my group said he's like seen like an app and even like fiddled around with it. Like these AI DMs are not bad. Like you will be able pretty soon to like get a group together and play
certainly
with an AI DM.
For basic sort of adventures like a dungeon crawl, that'd be super easy. Yeah, super easy.
And it couldn't be any worse than these clowns. I'm sorry.
Yeah, most likely.
And even though like Monty, like I've heard, I always hear this, like just because you know how to write stuff, it doesn't mean you necessarily know how to DM stuff.
That's right.
Like I've heard like Matt Colville is like a terrible DM, and I've heard things about Monty too that he's not great. Like I'm not the best either, but
have you ever seen footage of Jeremy Crawford DMing? It's
well, yeah, we've looked at it on Wednesday night. Yeah, it's like I don't want to say it's like a staple, but it's like a rare treat when he does a public game and his buffoonery. It's actually quite entertaining. I like him because that's something you can kind of sink your teeth into. Like someone like David Walters, he's like just boring.
A DM that'll just sit there and give the players like 45 minutes of exposition and then ask them what do you do next, and then they go into the next room and it's another 20 minutes of exposition.
Yeah. So it's very highly entertaining as they just sit there and like you said, just kind of watch him noodle.
It's horrible. It's so horrible.
But these other ones are so boring.
Never understood show don't tell, you know.
Yeah. How about just
all
play
right, guys? Well, we're past the 2-hour mark now, and so if you've got any other questions for Double D, here's your moment to do it. And if not, we're going to start closing up. So 102 people watching right now. That's very good. This is
what have you been getting with these usually?
Well, it varies at the time of viewing. It varies, but you know, we usually get when we're getting to like the peak, I think we get to anywhere between 60 to 100. You know, it depends on the week and who the guests are. Because I alternate. I do this show once every 4 weeks, right? And I alternate between somebody who's relatively well known, like you, for example, and then somebody who is much less well known, like either a new kind of newbie game designer or a newbie YouTuber that I've found, right, and want to promote, right? So obviously, when you have like Sandy Peterson, who was here, he gets a lot more attention than Liju, who almost nobody knows, right?
Well, I know you had someone on. I can't remember who it was. It was maybe it was one of your earlier ones, but you got to start telling these guys. You got to kind of like proverbially shake them by the shoulders, because I hear a lot of them, and I do hear this from other people too, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't really want to make money on my YouTube channel." Like they're kind of like creators, but also they have a channel. Like, "Oh, I don't want to be I don't really want any money. I don't want to be successful." You got to push back and just say why.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's very low T. That's very lefty. That's very silly. Like, do your best.
I will say that there is a difference though between saying, "Oh, I just don't, I don't care about the money," on the one hand, or on the other hand, if what you're saying is, "Well, look, I'm a guy that makes games, and so
I know what you mean. And you're talking about you.
I don't care about my YouTube as much as I care about my games," right?
Well, your YouTube is to promote your stuff a lot of the time, and that
every month,
I have no
I'm
problem.
I'm monetized, obviously, right? And every month I make a few $100s from YouTube, right? Okay, great, that's nice. But
a lot of these guys, they'll be like, "Oh, I don't care how many views I get. I don't care about this." It's like, then to stop doing it. Stop wasting everybody's time. Because you have an audience that's trying to invest in you, and if your attitude is, "I don't really care how much," well, like I said, then find something else to do.
One of two things: either you're doing it to actually build an audience and have that be your central activity, and you make money off it, right? Or it should be a vehicle for the products that you're presenting, right? And so like that's what it works for me, because a few $100s a month is not very much. But every video I do, I can look at like the sales figures from those publishers that send me every time that a book sells. And every day that I do a video, those sales spike, right? And for the first 12 or 15 or 18 hours after the video comes up, because people will be watching the video and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I never bought that game," and they'll get it, right? Because I put my games, apart from in live streams, usually what you see is my books, right? And and that really works, so that's the way to do it.
Could be one or the other or both.
Yeah, but yes, actually, people should be doing that. And
try. I'm just saying,
there's some people that want to imagine that they're artists above it all or whatever, but I've never understood that myself.
It's like, just try to do your best. It's like a lot of these people. I think a lot of these people, they get discouraged because they see like, "Oh, well, I have low views and all that." But you have to also understand, if this is the game that you're in, you're going to be there for a little while.
I started this YouTube channel. I mean, I was already a known entity, right? But even there, it took me quite a long time to get to like the first 500 subscribers, right?
Oh, yeah.
And in that time, I would be getting videos that at that moment were getting like a few hundred views, right? And it just builds up, but it starts slowly. And then once you get to like a certain critical mass, then it starts to go a little faster. And then after that, it kind of tapers off, as there's a kind of cycle to it. But yeah, you're not going to start out with, like, if you've got 3 videos so far, you're not going to have, unless you've done something incredibly good or incredibly bad, you're not going to get like 4,000 subscribers in the first 3 videos, right? You got to give it time, and it takes just steadily continuing to do the same thing, and maybe adjusting a bit to make sure it works, and producing the stuff that people are going to find more interesting.
I still think it is a great vehicle for you to, if you do have stuff that you want to sell, that you think your audience, not only your audience, but a lot of other people are going to like. I think it is a great way, to have a consistent, it's almost like storefront, like, "Hey, I'm here. I have this point of view. I also write this stuff. So if you like it, buy it,"
Without a doubt, YouTube is the best promotion I can do. Having a YouTube channel is the best kind of, the most successful, the best money's worth promotion or time's worth promotion that I could possibly do.
And if you're providing good value, your audience will pick up on that. you know, and look, if you're trying to like just pass off a bunch of, you know, garbage on them, cheap garbage, you know, they're going to sense that too. So
for sure. All right. So I think we're at the time where we can do the final question. We're almost at 2.5 hours here. The final question is also like the first question is always the same for every interviewee, and the last one is always the same. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but if you aren't,
let's have it.
So every single one we've had, you're number 11 right now, right? So you're the 11th guest of my new show. Like this is the show that I started after Inappropriate Characters, and the very first one was Mr. Welch. You're the latest one, and of those 11 participants, I've asked every single one of them the same thing. So I am kind of unusual by the standards of an RPG guy in that there's almost nothing else that I am stereotypically nerdy about. Okay, and what I mean is I do not play collectible card games. I don't play Warhammer or other miniature games. I don't play video games. I don't watch anime. I don't read science fiction novels, or I no longer read comic books, because I read science fiction novels as a kid, comic books as a kid, but that was a long time ago, right? So I don't collect Funko Pops or plush toys of Beholders or whatever, of Cthulhu or something. I don't have any kind of collectibles that are nerd collectibles. I guess I collect pipes. You know, I collect smoking pipes. And I mean, I do watch. I might watch Marvel movies or something like that, but that's not really a nerd thing anymore. That's just popular culture, right? So I might do that. But essentially, I have no other stereotypically nerdy pastime apart from RPGs, which I do a lot of, right? And my question for each of my guests is, in that sort of context, how nerdy are you? The current reigning champion, the prize being the guy who's the least nerdy, right, is Driving and Dragons, who
is in the chat.
Is essentially he's been the reigning champ. He was our He was our third guest, and nobody's been able to beat him because he only plays RPGs and fixes old cars, right? Which is not really a nerdy pastime at all. If you're fixing a car or playing football, those are not nerdy pastimes, right? Those are American pastimes, God damn it. It's that and you're firing guns. If you're doing all three of those, you probably win. Right? But besides that, you have to not do anything nerdy other than RPGs. So where do you fit? What other nerdy things do you do besides D&D?
Well, I'm not going to lay claim to be the least nerdy, but I probably fall on that side of the spectrum because, you know, it does take up a lot of my time because it is kind of mixed in with the channel now. So when I'm doing stuff outside of it, I tend to not like want to do that. So I am, for better or worse, I am a sports fan. I like all the major sports. I like baseball, basketball, football, and hockey. I've played baseball up through high school. You know, I'm actually still fairly, you know, I would not embarrass myself on a basketball court either. And I played flag football. I was the quarterback. I raised my son. He was the quarterback of a high school football team for 3 years. So, you know, I tend to have, you know, a lot of what you might call like normie interests. In the same respect, my 9-to-5 job is an accountant. I'm actually a CPA. So I had to study for and pass one of the most rigorous professional exams, you know, at the time, you know, maybe just beneath like the, you know, the bar exam. Well, probably not just beneath, but beneath the bar exam. But, you know, so I do some accounting, which some people might consider nerdy, but honestly, these days it's just kind of working with like
if
spreadsheets.
It's your job, no. If you were like, I'm a math nerd, right? I've done the math a lot. Then yes, but if it's literally your job, then it can't count as a nerdy thing. It's not a pastime. It's a profession.
Yeah. So and you know, I do play the occasional video game, and that's mainly just to kind of keep in contact with a couple of friends. So we just kind of just hang out and do that, but that's not too often. That's maybe once a week or once every other week. So I'm not a huge video game player, but I do have video games and I do play them. So like I said, I can't probably lay claim to be the least nerdy, but I'm definitely on that side of the spectrum, because other than that,
lower end. Yeah, I got the feeling that you would be. You know, just
yeah, I'm a bit of a normie. I was always in high school.
You and your co-hosts have the kind of regular guy vibe.
Yeah. And look, during high school, I'm not ashamed to admit I put aside role playing for a while because I wanted to get laid. We're talking late 80s now. That was not an invitation, for the ladies to come up to you and be like, hey, by saying like, hey, I play D&D, or, I play Star Trek. It's like, no, I kind of like set it down from the mid 80s and then like picked it up again in like 91. Just pretty much when I was at the tail end of college, and I honestly didn't care by that point. Plus I already had I had met my future wife.
Had a steady girl. Yeah.
Steady girl. Yeah. Soon to be wife. And, sure enough, after a couple years, she had always read all this stuff. And like, I would always go to play and she'd be like, oh, okay. And I think she just felt like there was this barrier. And then one time she's like, do you think I'd like playing? And I'm like, I don't know. Would you? And she's like, I think so. She's like, I read all these fantasy books. She's like, I even read the dumb ones. And she still does to this day. So yeah. So then she started playing with us in like 94, 95, I think. Yeah. She came in during Birthright very early. And has been playing ever since, so
that's good.
But yeah, kind of a normie, but also, not ashamed to admit, of my nerdy stuff. I like a lot of war games too. I do a lot of like painting, but a lot of that's like historical.
You're into miniatures, is that it?
Yeah. A lot of it's like historical gaming. Like I was just painting some of like Wellington's army. It's this 15 millimeter sort of 15 millimeter epic battles.
Historical is better than Warhammer. I'll give you that much. So.
I do have Warhammer too, though. So like I said, maybe that pushes me back the other direction. Yeah, but yeah. So yeah.
And Andy Reichert here says, tell us who's the most nerdy. See, that doesn't really work out because most nerds are nerds about multiple things, right? Like they're into a variety of stuff, and so a large number of the people that I interview are like, oh yeah, I love anime, I love cartoons, I love collecting miniatures, I have Funko Pop or whatever. Like they have all of this stuff. I've collected comics. Yeah, so there would be like a multi-way tie for the most area for the people that are close to it, right? There's this big cluster of people that do all the nerd stuff, and then there are people that do only very few nerd things, and there's the rare ones that do hardly any nerd things except for one nerd thing that they really like, so definitely you end up in the lower end of the nerd spectrum there, but I believe that as usual, Driving and Dragons is still the reigning champion. We're gonna need to get someone to dethrone him. I think we're gonna need to find someone, like I said, who he drives cars, he goes hunting, and he shoots guns, and and he was arrested for stuff he did at the Capitol building or something like that.
Oh, nice, yeah.
If you get to there, then maybe we've got someone to be Driving and Dragons. Otherwise, I think he's going to be the reigning champ for a long time.
Put the Burger King crown on him. Absolutely. I remember interviewing
the exact number of nerdy activities, right? Which is to say, just RPGs, nothing else, right? But certainly, I'll admit that his non-nerdy activities have a touch more of ruggedness, let's say, than my own, right? Like I say, well, I'm a pipe smoker, and a historian, and he's like, yeah, I fix cars, there's a difference.
That's the one that does it there. Yeah. I remember I had Blaine Pardo on, who's a great dude. In fact, you should try to reach out to him. I think you'd like him. He's the BattleTech guy who got chased away by his company because they sided with a trans lunatic.
Remember that.
Yeah. And I think he wants to he had to stop writing BattleTech novels, but he's wanted to keep writing those novels in those veins. So he's kind of created his own universe. And I think he does want to do a RPG based on it. And he was a super guy. I really like talking to him. So yeah, that might be another guess, but I just remember him saying, he was talking about all these things. Cause I was like, man, how do you do all this stuff? Like, how do you write all this stuff? And he was just like, I had to make one concession in my life. He said, I don't know the first thing about sports. He just said, He's like, you could tell me, something that went on. He's like, I would have no clue whatsoever about it. And I'm like, that's fair though, for someone as prolific as him. But yeah,
I'm
good dude.
similar. Yeah. Timothy Shank says, "Did you interview Venger? Do you mean for this show?" Yes. I mean, Venger was my co-host on Inappropriate Characters for years. He and I were the two guys that were on every episode of Inappropriate Characters. But if you look now in my channel, you go to the live section, you'll see episode 9 was my interview with Venger Satanis. And it ended in a typical Venger fashion. I will mention just the ridiculous type of screw up only Venger can have happen to him. So,
his wife came in the room screaming.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having come over and joined me on
my pleasure
on my interview show. And I'd like to say that we'll have you back sometime, but given that I only do one episode every 4 weeks, and I want to get through it, I probably will have you back someday, but it might not be for like a year or two, because I don't do these like every week or something.
Chances are you'll probably be on mine before.
I'm sure I'll be on yours, or probably the next time I have to promote a book.
That's okay. I don't mind.
Or some other controversy of mine. Yeah. We'll see. But you can always count on me when I raise the ire of somebody, and then I'll come over on your show and complain about it, if that's what you want.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and thank you to everybody in the audience. You guys have been great. Please be sure to like the video and share it if you can once it's processed. And check out all my other videos. If you guys are coming from Diversity and Dragons and somehow you didn't know about me, well, you should check out my videos. I'm sure, for the most part, if you like Double D's sort of stuff, you're probably really going to like mine too. And I would say the reverse to any of you who have never seen Diversity and Dragons channel, you should definitely check his out. His Wednesday live stream is the most common. He also does regular videos, but the Wednesday live stream has become kind of a staple of the OSR YouTube universe. So you guys should definitely go take a look at that if you haven't already. So thank you very much. And well, currently smoking, or rather just finished smoking. This is a Lorenzetti Alpha with Argento Latakia. And that'll be it. Oh, we got a last minute super chat there. Patriotic to Gaston.
Under the wire.
$10 for the tip jar. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. And all right. Well, guys, we will see you soon. Take care.